Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. This is a big time video. I made it yesterday. Today is Saturday, June 20th in the morning. I'm going to put this up for members and, almost immediately today, as soon as I'm done with this piece that I'm adding. This kind of happened last night, and this came around. Um, and then it'll be up for everyone else around 9 p.m., and then there'll be a day off tomorrow, Sunday, and then a new video Monday morning. You guys know the routine. Um, So I decided to add this because I didn't want to let this sit here. This is Miriam Adelson's newspaper. So this is her opinion, right? Like this is her saying to Trump again. This is a Jewish paper, Israeli. Um, and the title of the article is "You could have been the greatest president of all, but you failed." Now, the greatest president of Israel, because he wouldn't have been the greatest president of America if he brought in ground troops and he brought the promised land. Like this is saying, you didn't let us go all the way and reclaim the promised land, right? This is what this is about, which is not in America's best interest. It's what Israel would have been the greatest thing, the greatest president for Israel, the greatest shill for Israel, the greatest piece of shit for Israel. Um, but she gave him $250 million. He's, Tate licked her all the way. Like he's just praised Miriam Adelson up and down. $250 million. He's getting the Charlie Sheckels, right? So if he gets taken out, like Charlie Sheckels received hundreds of millions of dollars from Israel and then turned on him. He eventually didn't. And Charlie Sheckels was up there crying about how they were attacking his character and they're telling he was a bad person after all he did. Shabbat Shalom, all the stuff he did, how much he, talked about Israel. But, they turned on him because that's what they do, right? And of course, you give people that much money, you have kind of a right to complain, right? Mr. President, you have gravely harmed the human interests of the enlightened world, and you may be remembered forever as the president who brought about America's humiliation. You betrayed us, the Israelis. In a single moment, the contempt you once faced suddenly seems so justified and logical. Danny Zekin writes to the U.S. President. Mr. President, my name is Danny Zekin. I'm a proud Israeli citizen who has worked in journalism and covered developments in the region around the world, including our country's relations with the U.S. for many years. And from where I sit, near Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the people of Israel since the days of the kingdoms of David and Solomon, I say to you, you made a colossal mistake. If you failed by signing a surrender agreement with a murderous and cruel terror regime, you severely harmed America's interests and the democratic and human values of the enlightened world. And you turned over the hourglass toward the next war, which your successors will have to deal with in years to come. Um, this is again Miriam Adelson saying this to him, like this is her mouthpiece. In doing so, you sealed the fate of many thousands of people, civilians, women, children, and elderly, whom the regime in Iran will torture and murder. So that she's so concerned about the Iranians, because Israelis and Israel itself is really just concerned about Iranian citizens and other people. Shut up, Goy. You fucking Goy. Yeah, you were the greatest friend in the White House that Israel's ever had. But fuck you, Goy. How dare you, Goy, to be a fucking Shabbat Goy and not fucking do our bidding? And these fucking Goy over in Iran. They're all Goy, right? Remember this thing I talked about, this comedian, Ari, whatever his name is. And he, has a Netflix special called Jew, and he talks about how Goy is the most heinous word because instead of a specific word about a specific people, right? You have a racial slur, where people are saying, "Hey, looking down at some group and calling them some derogatory name." It's for everybody else that isn't 0.001% of the population, 12 million people, who view everyone else on the planet as Goy, right? Less than, like Goy does not. It's not a term of endearment, which, people know, right? People have known for a long time in the truth community. You just murdered more than 40,000 of them at the beginning of the year. Citizens of neighboring countries whom Iran and its terrorist proxies will murder fighters who will be killed in the war against Iran and terrorism it operates. And yes, many Americans too, just as Iran is emissaries have murdered throughout the years of Mueller's regime. Mueller regime. You did all this in violation of every promise you made, in contradiction to the path that you had followed until now, and against the values of America, which was supposed to return to greatness and has now been humiliated into dust. We're dust now. This is like a threat, right? Um, Fuck you, Goy, you fucking Goy. um, so think about the arrogance here, because he does not care about that paragraph is lies. They care about one thing, and it's Israel. They don't care about what happens to America. They don't care if, it's like a friend, and you want to max out your friendship with this friend and use them as much as possible. Your rich friend that you want to exhaust, and you don't care if they go into the fucking jail for you or get murdered or lose all their money or whatever. You don't care if what happens to them, as long as you get what you want. That's you fucking goy, right? So this is the attitude of these fucking people here. The ultimate in selfishness. Who you do so much for them and there's no gratitude, no generosity. I'm covering an epic comment at the end of this video. Where people are just so selfish and they take and they take and they take, and as soon as you start giving, they attack you, right? And so, it's an abusive relationship, and they've done it through manipulation and bribes and threats and whatever else they're doing. I don't know, whatever it is. You have been the greatest president of all this era, alongside Woodrow Wilson, who won World War I and created the foundation of international framework of the New World, alongside the Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Delano, it should be. What is it? Franklin Delano? I don't know. Roosevelt, who defeated the Nazis in Japan, and behind George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, then you would have deserved not only the Nobel Prize you covet, but eternal recognition and respect from everyone in the world who mocks you. And there are there are many such people. You could have been the president as you claim to be, but you failed. You missed the opportunity instead, unless you change course against the advice of your vice president and envoy. You will be remembered forever as the president who brought about humiliation of great America and gravely damaged its strategic power and its leading status in the world. And the contempt for suddenly seems justified and logical. The broad smile on former President Barack Obama's face contains so much mockery toward the man who had described his agreement as the worst ever. Would you have believed that many of Iran's enemies, your friends, now missed that agreement? With the question mark. All right, so this keeps on going, right? Like this promising start, I'm not going to read the whole thing because you get the fucking gist of it. That he, look at how long this thing is, right? Now, this is coming from Miriam Adelson, who gave him all the money. Thank you for this. Thank you for your attention. And here's at the end of it. And one last word from Israel. We feel betrayed. Nothing less, because your heart was, it seemed, in the right place with all your flaws. You acted against it. You lost your patience and your morale and leadership compass. Only if you walk this back and avoid reaching a final agreement with Iran might there be a correction. So they're basically saying you have to fucking, it's clear what Israel's demanding here, and these people that propped him up. And, and there's, I don't know if there's any Epstein stuff in here. Whatever the thing is. But, like they're talking about his character. I don't know. It doesn't seem like here they got Benjamin Nahu. Excuses. Anyways, it doesn't seem like I can see anything from whatever it is. But they put this out, and we'll see how this affects him, because this is sort of a warning, whether they're going to try to ruin him with the Epstein stuff or murder him or whatever kind of bullshit. This is a threat. This is threatening, and all the things. They've taken out presidents before. JFK. All this stuff. But anyways, let me just get into the other part of the video that I've already made, and then I'll cover this more on Monday, how this develops. But they're all losing their shit over this. All these people who are either sheckled up or they are, they're people who are Zionists and part of the, you know, this is their belief system, or they're people who are being paid. They're all, you know, going in on him and turned on him because this is all it takes. And, you know, what was his other options, right? Is a ground war. Like, you would be committing America to ground war. And, you know, I mean, this is already bad. And then all the other people, because this would have meant the Strait of Hormuz would have been closed for an extended period of time, and that would have created a worldwide catastrophe. You know, I just searched this, and my question was to AI Gemini. If the Strait of Hormuz was blocked for an extended period of time, how many children would suffer and die? An extended blockade of the Strait of Hormuz could place millions of children at risk of severe suffering and life-threatening malnutrition, according to projections of humanitarian agencies and economic modeling. While it's impossible to predict the exact definite death toll due to unpredictable emergency rerouting of international intervention, global organizations have detailed a massive compounding humanitarian crisis. Skyrockets in acute hunger, global fertilization shock, blocked and triple costs of life-saving aid, compounding medical shortages, humanitarian and economic reports. You know, and I could have asked all the effects, and it would be, I couldn't even read it all, right? So the Strait of Hormuz being closed would be horrible to all the goy, the goy of the world, and especially certain regions, and they would suffer. There would be people in these marginalized countries. You know, and it was an unnecessary war that Trump was, you know, forced into by Iran and his loyalty to them, to Israel and his loyalty to them, right? And so, you know, if this continued, the world would suffer. Everyone's against Israel. Nobody likes them. Like, you know, they're the most hated, and this is getting worse. And people see that America and Trump as being a puppet. And so they're saying that ground troops and the total destruction of Iran, and then really then all the chips falling there, where Israel continuously grabs land in Lebanon and starts taking all these lands around Israel and expands into this. You know, I've showed the map so many times before of the promised land, which includes, like, I think 6 other countries, and, you know, a lot of it's oil-rich land, resource-rich land, or oceanfront property, and making Israel like 20 times bigger than it is now. I mean, getting rid of Palestine altogether, and then grabbing onto all these countries and little bits of pieces of countries, like some of the like Iraq and Turkey. I mean, you know, the biblical Israel is quite a big place, and they would be a superpower. They would have all this land. They would have all these goy slaves that live there to do their bidding for them, right? And so and they would become a superpower, nuclear superpower, with resources and things, and America would dwindle because of this epic fucking, you know, humanitarian crisis and just the karma alone for it. And so that's what they expect. They expect everyone to suffer so that they can get this bullshit promise from a God that is a demon, that they've created, a self-created demon that says this land was promised to them, and God doesn't promise shit for people that, you know, God, and for chosen people that aren't chosen, right? That God doesn't choose. And so, you know, this is the selfishness of this fucking place and these people. And, you know, the Zionist people that are all around that support this for whatever reason. And, you know, it's a small minority. Everyone else wanted to see the Strait of Hormuz open. The world's celebrating, the markets are going back up. The only people upset about this are Zionists, right? The only people that care about this are Zionists. They don't care about the Iranian people or people of the world, or otherwise they would say the number one thing is to make sure the Strait of Hormuz is open. And so they're going to do everything in their power to destroy, you know, whatever, Trump himself here, but, you know, this whole deal and the rest of it, and make this war go to another level. Who knows? They might drop a fucking nuke on Iran. Like, we don't know what Israel's capable of here. But they are, you know, whatever it is, it's completely myopic and completely self-centered, and it's completely evil. And it should be clear to pretty much everybody. All right, so let's get into the rest of the video here. Okay, greetings, brothers and sisters. It is Friday, June 19th, Juneteenth, the day that the last slave was set free, I believe, in Texas. Big day today. This video is going up on Saturday, so whatever the 20th of June will be when you watch this. There's chunks of paint. My wife sent me this last night.
And there's a nice big chunk of the reflecting pool.
All right, so the reflecting pool is not only filled with algae. I was saying this, yesterday, and how like when you have a pool, even if you get a little shitty above ground plastic fucking vinyl siding pool, you need to have a water pump. Like we have a big ass water pump in a waterfall in the pond that I made, and we still get carpet something, and some other kinds of algae because it fucking grows, right? Especially if you have, animal droppings or any kind of protein, which you're going to get because there's going to be birds and shit in this thing. And you need an extensive filtration system. I don't know how they did it for years. Maybe because Trump said it was like granite blocks maybe that were put together and they leaked. Of course they would. They probably were pumping fresh water in there all the time. But either way, it's kind of it's a bad idea. Like it can't work. And Trump has this energy about him where he thinks that anything he's going to do is going to be successful. And he will never admit that it wasn't. That's why he's gone bankrupt so many times. And he fucks things up like all the time. And, he had some success with the New York Central Park skating rink and some things early on. At least, I mean, that's how it was put out there that he was successful doing some of these things. Like a similar project. He saved this. There was a famous ice skating rink in the middle of Central Park, and he saved it something. David Letterman had him on the show and was praising him. This was years and years ago. This is when I first learned about Trump. Like I saw that episode. And he had this reputation of getting things done other people couldn't. And, but it turned out he was a con artist. And he, a grifter. And he believes in his own bullshit. So he just thinks things are going to work out for him. And he takes on these things. And then it fails. Like if you're a Trumper and you believe Trump is just the second coming of Christ and he just has some kind of magic, you should, after seeing this paint and the fucking algae, you should realize, this is telling you he doesn't. He's fucking the worst. He fails all the time, but claims it's success and people believe it. But then when we look into it, the people who are around it going, no, this is an epic failure. Everything he's done is smoke and mirrors. The guy who, when they released all the unedited footage and the stories came out about The Apprentice, Trump was on the verge of bankruptcy again, and they wanted to go with other people for the Apprentice show. They went with Trump, and they went to his offices, and they were fucking horrible. They were, just a mess. There was no, they weren't they couldn't shoot a show in there. They had to build a separate stage. That Trump had really no staff. There's no Trump organization. He brought these people in they were his, right and left hand man and woman. Remember the Carolyn something, some old fucking guy, but he had barely anybody working for him. It was just a grift, and he had all these things, and then he made bank on The Apprentice and sort of saved his money again by getting, he got the endorsement deals for the projects. And, the show became sort of a hit again, and he had a rebound. And if he didn't have that, he would have gone down to some, flamed out, fucking dead broke, insurmountable debt, this fucking thing. But he somehow, he failed upwards, and now he's president, and these people believe he has some fucking Midas touch, and he fucking doesn't. Right? There's your Midas touch right there. Okay, so I used to get these kind of ads all the time from Facebook. I don't go on Facebook, so probably don't see them.
This was forged from the very missiles meant to destroy us. We turned their fire into a mezuzah.
To a mezuzah. They got a mezuzah right fucking here. This was a missile from Iranians that they turned into mezuzah.
A symbol of our protection and endurance.
What if you... why don't you guys take some of the fragments of the bones of the Palestinian children you guys murdered in Gaza and turn that into something, right? Because this sounds like a little victimy and a little fucking hypocritical.
It brought me such quiet strength. I just bought 3 more so
Bought
my
3 of
family
them.
can wear them together.
You and your family all can wear a mezuzah.
We remain unbroken.
You're unbroken by these missiles that came into your region and were shot down by the Iron Dome that America paid for after you guys pissed everybody off in your region by grabbing land and murdering frickin' Muslim kids.
If you want your own necklace made from real missile fragments,
I do want my own
below for you to claim yours.
I do want my own necklace made from missile fragments. I mean, now that I know that such a thing exists, I gotta have that, right? Oh my God, how did I not ever have a missile fragment necklace before? I might get one for fucking everybody in my life, and we all should wear missile fragments around our necks.
Stand unbroken with us.
Boom. No thanks. So Gady Vance made a couple appearances, and we'll show these. 2 of them.
What I will say, and this does bother me, is that you've seen people within Bibi's cabinet who have come out and attacked the deal, and in some ways very personally attacked the President of the United States. And I guess my message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
Okay, so why is that? Why is Trump the only one? Like, nobody else likes him. No one else likes Israel. None of the other countries, like, they're all... And, the UN has been against Israel for years because of their bullshit. I mean, not against them. They've been committing war crimes. Not that the UN is good. The UN sucks, but, and Israel has money and power and influence behind them in every country. They have bank power and things like this. They have, whatever it is, right? So, well, why is Trump the only one? Why does he kiss their ass? Like, why don't you talk about that, Gady Vance, right? Well, because he shouldn't be there. Like, no one else is there. Especially when they've committed these war crimes, these heinous fucking genocides and war crimes. So tell us more about why he's the only one. What's in it for America, and what's in it for him personally that he's doing this? Because there's nothing in it for America. He doesn't give a shit about America. We all know that. Guys watch my videos. I mean, if you have half a fucking any kind of common sense, Trump cares about himself. Why does he personally back a country no one else likes, right? And so, Gady Vance is saying that everyone hates you. Well, then why doesn't he hate him? And why does Trump fucking... it's not about religion. If he was an evangelical Christian and he believed in the biblical land rights, but even Charlie Kirk, who believed in that shit, wasn't in favor of these fucking wars with Iran and this other stuff, right? So, because mezuzah means child sacrifice, right? He needs a mezuzah. So there was some medal ceremony bullshit going on.
You want to help us out with this? You're the one that made it.
Okay, it's a box and you kind of open it like that. You want to help me with that? You would want to rehearse shit like that because, I could see why you might have trouble opening some of these boxes. Like I have, I talk about how I struggle getting those fucking produce bags open. I can't for the life of me do it, right? So I can understand. I've done it before and I have a system and it doesn't work very well. I rub the top and the opening part. First you gotta find the opening part, but whatever it is. But if you're gonna do this in front of the camera and you're the fucking supposed to be this, whatever it is, Gady Vance is gonna call him a genius in a little bit. We'll get to that. So if you're supposed to be this guy, right? That this Midas touch guy, or just any president, you don't want to be. You'd have to practice, and they'd show you how to open it. And maybe they did that, and he wasn't listening, or he just can't fucking keep it together anymore. He's stuttering. Like, he's obviously breaking down mentally. He's 80 years old now, and he's fucking. It's just too old. When him and Biden ran the first time, they were the two oldest whoever was going to win was going to be the oldest president ever, right? I mean, in terms of the and the two candidates that were the oldest. No other presidential candidate before them were as old as they were when they ran, and so it's just when you're in your 80s, you just start breaking down. And he's eats shitty foods, and he's gross, and he's fat, and he's just unhealthy. And so like we knew this was going to happen. It was already happening. Like he's way worse now than he was before, and he was bad before. Like he was just but he was sharper. You lose your. I mean, everybody knows what happens when you get older. Now, does she feel? Does she use a filter to make herself look worse? And she's got an alligator teeth behind her.
Of these crazy lies and propaganda that is spread by people who retweet this insane account that really should be banned for incitement to violence. Twitter should literally
APAC tracker.
ban this account and ban people who repost this APAC tracker account of these crazy.
Okay. It's all unraveling. And like, why her? I mean, she's by far the most she's repulsive. And I don't mean just because of her weird, face that seems to get, I don't know if she's had plastic surgery or what's happened to her. She almost has just whatever. I mean, she's an ugly person inside and out. But she's got that tone and, Ben Shapiro's a weird little fuck. But he's not nearly as, and Mark Levin is, they're just unlikable people. Like there's likable Jewish people out there, right? Like, famous celebrities, comedians, whatever. There's plenty of them, who people like, likable people. And everyone has likable people in their group. Like, every demographic has likable people that can appeal to other people and just has a way about them, right? Has some, charisma and things. And they pick these ugly, annoying, like people with really obnoxious voices. That's the first thing. Like, people who have really unpleasant voices to listen to and are always bitching and negative and like you have that. So that's the first thing you have to avoid. You're going to have a face of your movement. You're going to have people that are out there. They're shekling for you. They're shilling for you. And, they have, like Erica Kirk in her way. She's so annoying. Like, you just want to turn it off. Candace Owens. They're just like, their voices, they're shrill and they're just, their voices are you have to like, it's like a noise that's going on, right, something like that, like some annoying noise, and like you get used to it, and then all of a sudden you turn it off, and you're like, oh my God, my life's so much better when I turn that thing off. And she's just like repulsive, and so why pick somebody? It seems like they want everyone to turn on Israel. I can't imagine there's any other strategy here. And then Yahoo, another one, right? His voice and just the way his manner. His voice he doesn't have a bad voice, but just has a whole energy in the way that he expresses himself. Like and all these politicians that they have, most of them are, they're off-putting. Politicians in America, they just seem to pick very unlikable people. Like very seldom you find somebody likable. And like this fucking monster, right? Why would you have her be out there? Like, how is that possible? That you would pick somebody like is the worst and put him out there to save a country that's like everybody hates now. And you put someone who's even more hateable as the face of your country and shilling for you. Gives him a pat on the back. Fucking weird as shit. Watch. Look at him. All right, buddy. Here, take that. Here. Let me get close to you and whisper in your ear. Rub my crotch against your anus. There you go. There you go, bro. That isn't gay at all. What the fuck? What's he saying? Why isn't he mic'd up? No, it's just fucking weird. You can't do the clasp. You can't do the click. Couldn't open the thing. He's choking the motherfucker. Pull it tighter. You're choking the fucking guy you're giving the medal to, bro. I think he's tying it. He's tied it. He fucking tied it. Is this real? Oh, I gotta find this. He's tying the fucking thing. It's so fucking cheap. This guy's getting some big ass medal. And look at this. He's going back. Look at this thing. Oh my God, he's fixing. Jesus Christ. Thank you. That's awesome. I can't fucking breathe right now. What the fuck? Yeah, why are you applauding that? That was fucking horrific. Look at him. He's got the Alec Baldwin version of Trump there with his fucking ducky lips. Fuck was that, right? Holy shit. That was amazing. Fucking amazing. Unfucking believable. He fucking, I mean, give him, like, you can't give him a broken fucking man. It's supposed to be something sacred. It's all bullshit anyway. It's amazing. That was like 10 stars. Okay, so now watch this. I saw this as well. But I didn't understand because I didn't know how bad he failed over here. So here's Joe Biden. So Joe Biden gets the clasp. You know, Joe Biden had fucking prostate cancer, stage 4 prostate cancer. This is the Medal of Honor. And then I go to Trump, he's still fumbling around with it. Like, this guy got to tie it. Like, what the fuck? That was your solution? He couldn't figure it out. So, Joe Biden had Parkinson's, which we knew. And then he asked him. Holy shit, right? So that's unbelievable. Joe Biden had Parkinson's and fucking stage 4 prostate cancer, or whatever it was when he tied the medal. He had prostate cancer for years. And Parkinson's. We all know how fucked up he was, right? Like, and I don't know when that was in his presidency, but he was able to execute it. And now Trump, holy shit. Like, that's, you never want to be compared cognitively, negatively to fucking Joe Biden. So Ian Carroll, who I think is pretty much a piece of shit, but I don't know him that well. Enough that I could call him a piece of shit. If anything explodes in America in the next 60 days, it's Israel. I agree with that. Iran observer breaking. Iran has announced that even if the war ends, Israeli ships will not be allowed to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This is give the enemy nightmares. I don't fucking know what this is. So I don't know. There's a bunch of bullshit here. I don't even know where this is coming from. There's the fucking pond. Look at this. Looking pretty sweet. Just, you know, there's more Ian Carroll. I don't even know how this guy came up here. Maybe this. Here's this. What happens? Oh, this is something else. All right. He's a toddler here. That guy being interviewed, that actor. So what does he say here?
Do not bend. Do not bow your head.
This is probably an old thing when he was alive and was an AI.
I say to you in front of these vilifications, do not cower. Do not bend. Do not bow your head. Fight back. Because people respect those who respect themselves. And the minorities that fought back, whether it's the blacks or the gays or women, they fought back. And what we have to do as Jews, both here in Israel and in the various Jewish communities around the world, beginning with the United States, is to fight back. Silence will not help. Looking askance will not help. Fight back. That's what I tell you. That's what I tell young Jewish students that I meet. I'm very proud of them when I meet them.
He's talking about anybody who criticizes Israel. Or you could just own up to your bullshit. Look at this guy just kicking fucking Cobra. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck. What are you doing? No, fuck you. Hey, fuck, look. Here, take that, you motherfucker. Take that, motherfucker. No, I'm not endorsing that, but it's funny as shit. This guy obviously knows what he's doing. Or maybe not. Sean Strickland. He's, you know, I think he's in this guy. There's a big racial fight. I've seen that before. It's an old one. I don't know who that is. Look at this dude. Look at this guy having a popsicle. Why is your dog obese? Why are these guys praying? This kind of bullshit they're doing. All right. I think she's gonna get gored here. Otherwise, well, look at that fucking maneuver. Holy shit. Is that AI? It's got to be AI. She's the fucking. All right. All right. Here's Katie Vance again.
And it's interesting that so many people, like, if you give Donald Trump an IQ test with the other 45, 46 presidents that the United States has had, I guarantee he'd be either near the top or at the top.
Okay, see, that's not how testing works. An IQ test is not an accurate. What I talk about here is consciousness, right? My IQ has definitely gone down since I was a kid. Like, I'm not as sharp mentally as I was. In fact, I remember when I was in my 30s, when I was younger, I read a set of what's basically algorithms, and I could solve a Rubik's Cube. And I got into my 30s, and I looked online because I wanted to see if I could still do it. And I didn't put as much effort into it, but I couldn't do it. Like, I just, it seemed like I'd lost. And I was a lot sharper. That was like, half a lifetime ago. And then I gave it to my son, who ended up being able to get a speed cube and solve Rubik's Cubes in like 14 or 15 seconds was his record. Like, he could just fly through the thing, right? But I know that I'm not as mentally sharp and as mentally fast as I was. But my consciousness is, I'm just wiser, better. I'm less of a dumb fuck. I still do dumb fuck stuff, but everyone has their stuff where they get, sped up, or they get, where they make impulsive decisions or make bad decisions. But, I've reduced that quite a bit, less emotional about things. And so there's consciousness where, and a lot of that comes from embracing your soul, the nature of your soul, and connecting to divinity and settling down. And, you just evolve. And so, like, there's levels to it, right? J.D. Vance is smarter than Trump. Like, just intellectually, he would do better than Trump on an IQ test. He's a person, like, Trump is just not smart. Like, he's good at grifting. There's things that he's good at. He has some talent. He's above average IQ, but now that he's old, he's lost that. And it's not like he's really smart. He was, slightly above average. But, there's a lot of people who, they're not geniuses, but they can carry a large audience. Musically or any number of ways. They're closer to you than they are to, genius people are misunderstood and just above everybody. Like, people who are just spiritually more evolved, or any of these levels. Like that's why Christianity dumbed down Jesus's, Jesus wasn't that far along his spiritual journey, and they still dumbed his shit down, because where he was and the stuff that he was going to talk about was not going to appeal to the dumb fucks, right? And so, yeah, to Trump, he seems smarter than the average person. I can't say, president by president, because there's no way to judge that, but Trump is not smart. Like, he just isn't. And he's not curious either. He's lazy. He's intellectually lazy. He makes decisions based on hunches and impulse reactions. And sometimes he's right, but more often than not, he's wrong. And he gets an idea. He doesn't listen to people. He doesn't do the research. He doesn't figure out different points of view. He just reacts to something, and he takes a position, and then he just, even all the evidence in the world can be given to him, and he won't reverse himself. And that's a horrible leader, right? And J.D. Vance knows this. He's a lying sack of shit and weird as fuck, right? And so this guy is, smarter than Trump, but that doesn't mean he'd be better than Trump. Like, he's not going to do the stupid shit Trump's doing, but he's a greasy politician, and he's just, whatever. He's not going to be president. I'd be shocked if this guy's ever president. I don't think people like him. And, vice presidents are almost never president. And, Trump's done so much damage. All the Trumper people are, the Republican Party is just going to disappear, that whole thing. Like, it's going to be so bad at the end. It's so bad now. Okay, so if you're not aware of the whole thing, the stuff to do with my schedule here. I put out a video at 8 a.m. the first day. Second day, it's 2 p.m. Gives people more than 24 hours to watch the videos. And then the third day is 9 p.m. And then I don't make another video to the following day. I skip a day. And, I'm making content all the time, but I'm giving people a chance to catch up with all the content. Especially, I've had a couple of 2-hour plus, I think 1 3-hour video in the last 2 days. So this video will probably be a little bit shorter. Then people can catch up on all the content. If I put out too much content, if I put out content every day, it becomes, people just aren't going to watch it, and then it fucks up the algorithms and these things. So that's my schedule. I meant to say that at the beginning of the video, but I forgot.
Hi again, everybody. It's
She showed a bunch of stuff with Jon Stewart that wasn't funny.
now 5 o'clock in the East. The one and only Jon Stewart calling out his own parent company for its coverage of Sunday's gross display of UFC fighting at the White House. And while he may have been making it...
Okay, so why isn't anybody pointing out the devil's horns?
And while he may have been making a joke there, his message about the companies that are choosing to side with this administration and everything it stands for, especially this birthday party excess, is serious. What Trump hosted at the People's House was a massive sponsored event. The huge logos of Meta, Budweiser, Monster Energy, Ram Trucks, Crypto.com, and others were plastered everywhere the eye could see. It was all over that garish structure that was erected on the White House lawn. California's Governor Gavin Newsom called it un-American, saying, quote, "The White House was built to serve the American."
This is American as it gets. You fuck. Right? You dyslexic fuck. I have dyslexia too, but when he has it, it sucks. Mine's great, his sucks. That's gaudy American shit right there, And they were drinking, so there's just it's like a beer bash kind of thing with fighting and all this, all the weird shit. But that was American as fuck. I mean, in this sense, Trump is totally American. Gaudy capitalism, unapologetic capitalism, hedonism, right? Ads everywhere, monetization. That's anything that you'd say about disrespecting the White House is, I guess in some way it's true. But the White House has been bought and sold so many different fucking times, as have been politicians. So it's all fucking corrupt. And, in all these countries, America isn't as bad. Like India, if you saw the bureaucracy there, and I had to deal with it because we overextended our visa, it was a fucking nightmare. There's a huge folder on my family when I misread the date on the visa, because they do date month year and we do month date year, and I knew that, but I forgot, and then we overstayed. So, and that was a whole nightmare. We had to go to the cops and be interviewed, and luckily we didn't have to pay any bribes. And we were going through the police station. It was like a maze of boxes of folders. Like, they just love fucking bureaucracy and paperwork. And their visa system is a nightmare there. I mean, Modi has streamlined it to a certain extent, certainly for Americans, made it easier to come and go. We had to go to immigration and visa place like probably 10 times. And then we had to go to the police station a number of times. And it took like 3 months to get it dealt with. And then I went back to the country, because I was coming back in and forth and things. Eventually we had to leave just because of, I've told the story before. But then I remarried and my wife went to India for the first time. My kids came back, 2 of them, with us, and we went into India and they saw my thing and they weren't going to let us in because of the visa issue. Like, it was a whole thing. This young guy wouldn't let us in, and an old guy goes, "You're not going to do anything right." I'm like, "No." He goes, "All right, go away." Like, fucking. But their bureaucracy and their paperwork and their corruption, and just all the stuff to do with the caste system. And that's just one country. Most of these countries have had years and years to perfect their corruption and their bullshit, and they never get anything done. And as bad as it's getting for America, we're just, infants compared to all these countries with their bureaucracy and corruption. But ours is really bad. And, just all the corporate stuff and all the logos. And so this is totally American. It's totally human beings, like, at least in terms of the Kali Yuga.
People. Tonight it was used to promote a company the president owns stock in, to sell subscriptions, to promote corporate sponsors, to push Trump crypto, and enrich the president and his family. The founders warned us about kings enriching themselves from public office. They did not fight a revolution for this.
Yeah, it's bullshit. Right? This is what we got. This is 100% American. Right? Everything you just said is true, but it's saying it's not American is not true.
And then the financial backing of this event became even more disturbing, even more gross. After the winner of one of the fights, Josh Hokit.
Who's that? Who's that? I don't know who the fuck that is.
Made this disgusting comment following his win.
They use the word, a lot of people use, TPUS gays always saying disgusting. People say disgusting. Like, you're disgusting. Like, fucking your show, your fucking networks, America's disgusting. Like, how is this worse than anything else, right? Like, it's all disgusting. If you're going to...
I prefer to ignore this, and I did yesterday. But for this to be broadcast from the White House with all these corporations sponsoring it on a day supposedly celebrating our country and patriotism, this has to be called out and covered.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America?
Importantly, Joe Rogan, in an inexplicably bizarre short tie, says nothing. Nothing.
He didn't say anything, though. He didn't say, Michelle Obama isn't a man. I've seen Michelle Obama's vagina. I mean, what was he going to fucking say? What is he going to fucking say? Hey, that's not... A fact check, Michelle Obama is actually not a man. And this has been around for a while, and I was, like, kind of the person that started this. This is how my YouTube channel took off, because I covered this. And I don't regret it, but I wouldn't do it the same way. And I don't like the outcome. And then, of course, it went to, it got dumb fucked, right? There's a lot of, so my first videos that popped, my channel was going around, I've talked about this before, so I'm not going to go through it. But I realized that my second video right after this that popped, and I got hundreds of thousands of views on this one. And, Dave Chappelle said, A-list black actors had to put on a dress. And he said it on Oprah Winfrey, and like he said, he was basically saying they would never get him because they wanted to... He came into his dressing room, and they wanted him to put on a dress, and it wasn't part of the scene. And he said, I'm not going to do it. They said, well, all the greats do it. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. And they were very dickish about it, if you've seen that clip. But it turned out Dave Chappelle put on a dress, I think it was in a Mel Brooks movie, or something like that. And he was like a... like with the time of court gestures and stuff, and he wore a dress. It's been done over and over again. It's not funny. Like, it's just men wearing dresses. Like, maybe it would be funny one time, but it's been overdone, which Dave Chappelle said. But then when I looked into it, pretty much every A-list white actor had to put on a dress. Even John Wayne wore a boa. I've got all these pictures and all these things that I covered. And so there was something here. Masculine women, like women who looked more like men who are celebrities, and now it's even become more prevalent with buff women and action hero women, who are, got men's shoulders and things like that, broad shoulders and six packs. Six packs and pregnancy don't go together, right? Like your belly has to, if your body's tight, it's got to loosen up for the whole birth, this whole thing. But I recognized something real, of course, and then the Bruce Caitlyn Jenner thing happened. And all the things happened after that. So, I was kind of on the cutting edge of this thing. But, the Michelle Obama thing got overblown. And there was no real way to prove it. And, you can have your opinion about it, but whatever. But, it's there in the ether. And whether you are Michelle Obama, I'll try to find it. Like, I turned on the news yesterday, and if I can find it, it'll be great if they post it on YouTube. And they were at the Obama Library. And Michelle Obama was talking we can't be divided anymore. And it cut back to the MSNBC host, and she was like, oh my God, this is so amazing. She was like praising this bullshit speech. It's just it's all so fucking sucky, right? But this is just a dumb redneck fuck with a bunch of drunk redneck fucks, watching a brutal sport, talking shit about something and, making kind of a joke about it. And Joe Rogan laughing about it, right? And like, who gives a shit? Like, you're making, why would you say there was no serious fucking counterpoint here. Like it was, if you know, it was either a mockery or it was real. And if it was real, you know, and it was serious, then we have real problems. You know, this was just a joke, some gaudy thing for Trump's birthday.
Obviously not someone who can think on his feet. It's a despicable thing to say.
So despicable.
About the former first lady of our country.
Why accusing somebody of being a dude is despicable? Are you guys out on the whole transgender stuff? What if she came out and said, I identify as a man? Well, would that be despicable then? You know, part of what I covered was, and I had this montage of Barack Obama working out. Barack Hussein Obama working out. Barack Hussein Obama was working out in the most effeminate way. Like there was a video of him in some little gym in a hotel room, in a hotel, and somehow they leaked the video. I don't know how they got it. You know, there's some cameras in the, you know, whatever. And he's yawning and he's not taking it seriously and he's lifting the slightest weights. Where his wife is all bulked up. Everyone used to talk about her arms, right? She was always defending how they accused her of emasculating him. But she always made fun of him and ran him down in public and talked about him. I mean, every time she made a public appearance, she talked about him in a way that was like, you know, demeaning. She'd like demean the shit out of him. And like she was seen as this, you know, action figure. I mean, all this stuff that they did with her, right? So they were at least trying to make her masculine. And they were feminizing Barack Obama, which, of course, you know, then I'll have all these pictures. I have a montage of the pictures of buff women, and I only have a few of them that I'm posting here. I don't have all of them. You know, I deleted some of these folders. I have them saved somewhere. But all these A-list celebrity women actresses have big arms, you know, big shoulders, and are masculine. I mean, many of these celebrities, they all work out. And of course, you know, look at where we are now where, I mean, I watch these reality TV shows where they do, you know, I watched the Outlast show. And then, you know, I watch these things where Alone and, you know, these shows where they do survival stuff. And, you know, in any of those shows or shows even like something like Traders or whatever these shows are, where there's competition, they always say like, oh, I want a team of strong women, or we're a team of strong women, and I want a team of all women to win. You know, like this idea that they're competing against men. But you never hear men say that at all, right? And then there's movies and TV shows and video games where women are all buff and kicking men's asses and are tough and fighters, and, you know, it's a constant. Like you see these models beating the shit out of some 200-pound, fucking 250-pound dude, right? Like, you know, it doesn't work that way. And so there's been this effort to feminize men, and the whole thing with Bruce Jenner, who was when I was a kid, he was a, you know, Olympic hero and, you know, manly man and, you know, decathlete and on the cover of Wheaties, and then he became a transgender, and they pushed this, you know, idea of there was money going into research on how men could get pregnant, like as part of this whole transgender thing. And so, you know, I was at the cusp of this, and you can say Michelle Obama is a man or not. You can say these things, but at the very least, you know, I have all these images of A-list actors, and I only put a fraction of the amount of images I have, and I'm sure there's all these images out there because I made this video, A-list actors that put on dresses, and it was like every one of them. And I looked at the one with Matt Damon, and he was in a movie called The Good Shepherd, and he was at Yale, and Yale has a connection to the CIA, or created the CIA. And it was about Skull and Bones, and it was directed by Robert De Niro. And Matt Damon is in a play where he's playing a woman, and they ask him, Skull and Bones, yes or no, in the dressing room, and when he's dressed as a woman. And then he goes and they show the humiliation ritual. They go in the casket, and they have to confess their sexual secrets, and all the other Skull and Bones men are all above them. Remember, Skull and Bones produced 2 presidents, you know, the Bush presidencies and George W. Bush. John Kerry, who was running for president, became Secretary of State, was Skull and Bones. There's a time where George W. Bush was running against another Skull and Bones guy. And Matt Damon's in the casket, and somebody peeing on him, right? You know, like it was this humiliation ritual. And then they formed the CIA link. CIA came from the Skull and Bones. according to this, there's Freemasonic connections where men dress up as women. I talked about this in so many videos. And so you had all these A-list celebrities who have to put on dresses, emasculating the men. And then the women are, more empowered and talking about women's power and kicking ass. And they have men's bodies and trying to get men's bodies. And all these celebrity women who are, with these arms and the fucking action hero shit. So clearly there's an agenda, which I discovered years and years ago. Like this is back in 2014, before all this stuff unfolded. And you can see it now, like how to emasculate men, pushing this stuff, the whole, you have all these cocks, right? All these like weak men, low testosterone men. I mean, estrogen everywhere and the phytoestrogens. So there's a, biological component to it. Atrazine, that, the stuff that turns frogs gay or turns male frogs into female frogs. It fucks with your hormones. It's banned in Europe, but there's, they have it here, spraying it at kids' parks. And then all the stuff that Wi-Fi does. It cooks your, nuts and these things. These kids growing up with no testosterone. Clearly there's an agenda here. Despite the fucking, the bombshell headlines and all the rest of it, they want to feminize men. And they're doing it in every possible way. And they want to, make women more masculine. And, it's really, a part of it's the jealousy of women being able to have babies. So they want to turn the women into the men and the men into the women. I mean, it's, it's there for everyone to see. Like, no one can deny that this agenda happened. It's happening on, in content and all these other ways. So, that piece of shit who got up there and said Michelle Obama's a man, and, he can't articulate the stuff the way I am, and he makes a joke out of it, and it makes it look like it's for dumb fucks. So intelligent people won't jump on board, but it's all there. Like, all the fucking agenda to effeminize men and to make women more masculine is there. To get women to not want to be moms and get men to want to be moms. Like, it's like this whole fucked inverted satanic shit. Anyways, so there was that. Okay, so I think I found this bit where Michelle Obama's talking and this MSNBC reporter is praising the shit out of her.
The lies about your birthright, your faith, your patriotism, the outrage when you stated the biological fact that if you'd had a son, that he too would be black. You were doing the people's work, rescuing our economy, expanding health care, ending a war, ordering the bin Laden raid, saving an auto industry, winning a peace prize.
You can hear Hillary Clinton cackling back there. There's Bill and Hillary, and she's cackling.
Safe from Ebola, regulating the banks, standing up.
So let's get closer to where they come in here.
Of unspeakable tragedies.
Michael, winning a peace prize, keeping us.
Okay, so this isn't the section. This woman starts praising the shit. She's like, "Oh my God, that was an amazing bit." I don't think there's more here, but I don't think that's the. That guy seems to be talking. There's Hillary Clinton in them. But anyways, trying to shit on Trump. The whole thing's just a mess. Like, the idea that Trump sucks so bad that somehow the Democrats have to be better is not true. That's a myth. As bad as Trump sucks, and he sucks on a different level, and he's willing to push his suck and force his suck on people much more than, the Democrats were. But make no mistake about it, they're not any better. Like, just because Trump is like a demon doesn't mean they're not demonic, right? That doesn't mean they're angels because he's a demon. It means that they're all demons, right? So this depraved motherfucker was at the Obama library thing.
How'd you feel to be here today?
Look, I feel like I've been to the best church on the planet Earth. Wonderful words, good music, good acts. Could have used.
So you're satanic, right? So you worship the devil. So Tom Hanks admits he worships the devil at this devil worshiping festival.
I'm going to tell you, it was so hot that every now and
How hot was it?
again we had to do this, right? And every now and again, just to register my applause, I literally tapped my fan on my hat because he couldn't put it down.
I've seen you at conventions. I've seen you at other events.
I've never been to a convention, but okay.
Okay. So, but you've been around the Obama universe.
So you fucking liar? This guy's a fucking... What do you mean you saw him at conventions, you fucking liar?
Before.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Appeared in advertisements, videos.
Yeah.
How did this differ from your experiences with the Obamas?
Well, I think he said something beautiful, and today...
All right, enough of this bullshit. So Trump had an interview with Axios. I mean, look at this fucking atrocity.
President Trump sat down with Mark Caputo of Axios at the White House yesterday for his first interview since signing the agreement that extends the ceasefire with Iran.
I got a great comment. Someone wrote me a letter about, I mean, it's an amazing thing that I can't wait to shit on. So I'm just trying to get through the rest of this stuff so I can get to that.
It's part of that conversation.
What have you learned about not just the exercise of power, but the limits on your power as a result of the conflict?
There are no limits.
No limit.
No, not. I haven't learned that lesson yet. I know there are, but there are no limits. We defeated them totally militarily. Who else could have done a?
Yeah, there are no limits. I know there are, but let's see. I'm just going to push it until I find my limit. Usually, if you push it until you find your limit, you break down, right? Like if you push your body too far, you physically break down. If you push your luck too much, you lose all your money or your fucking whatever it is, right? Usually, if you wait for what people call the universe to say no to you, it says no in a crushing fashion, right? Like if you're not willing to set limits on yourself, then usually it ends in disaster. And with Trump, it certainly would.
Blockade like that. I did a naval blockade where not one ship was able to get through. Some tried. They didn't.
Yeah, that's if you think that the other naval blockades ships were getting through. Like it's not a blockade if ships are getting through. The word block is right there.
It'll last very long.
And it certainly brought Iran to the table more than before. However, beginning
how did it bring them to the table? They have a fucking deal already. That's like an amazing deal. They're not giving up shit, right?
Conflict. You had talked about you only wanted unconditional surrender. And the MOU doesn't look like unconditional surrender.
Well, it really probably is unconditional surrender.
Because you say so? All right. So that's Axios and Trump. Okay, so... Is there any guitar in? Why is he doing the guitar here? It's such a stooge. I mean, you really can't hear the guitar in the music. Who's that? And here's Joe Biden. He's fucking... Where am I? Where am I? Who am I?
My granddaughter.
Said I'm looking for my granddaughter. Holy shit. All right. Okay, so unless something happens tonight, Friday night, or all day Saturday, when I have to add something to this video, I'm going to finish it here. This video isn't going to go up till tomorrow night, but, the whole thing. So I got this amazing letter from somebody emailed to me, which, well, let me just say I was outside doing a lot of work. I was trimming things, and we have honeybees and we have natural pollinators. And at some point, an angry bee, got between my glasses and was on my eye for a second, buzzing like crazy. And thank God it didn't sting me. But I was outside, and it was beautiful day today, and I happened to look at my phone, and there was an email saying, "You blocked me." And amazing email. I'll also check the comments. I think there was something else I wanted to say, but I guess, if I think of it, I'll say it later. So this person wrote this, and I usually wouldn't share an email, but this is so fucking dickish a move on this person's part. And And I'll explain why as we go through it, and some of it will be obvious. And it says here, good morning. So your channel is dying a slow death. Maybe if you didn't block everybody who commented something you didn't like, you might retain more viewers. So, let me read I'm just going to read the first paragraph because that's all I read. Before I do that, I want to say, let me say this one thing. Why it's a bullshit move. Because the person knows, like I have, certain rules to keep my channel going. And they're for my benefit, right? And also people in the comment section. The internet is a shitty place and, people are hostile and whatever, right? And they're in negativity, and it's an energy that, people come to my channel to listen to the videos, but also there's an energy because of the Sajmarg meditation I do. You become a conduit. I was made a preceptor, which certain spiritual points were open so the energy would flow through. Things were done to my voice during the Sajmarg. I've been meditating since 1993. It's going to be 33 years in August. And the Sajmarg system has changed me, reconfigured my system. And this energy, this transmission flows. Everybody gives off an energy, right? Everybody has energy and, whatever. So, part of my making videos is not even just about what I'm saying or the content, the subject matter, my opinions, my beliefs, whatever it is. Like, I don't really even have beliefs anymore in a sense. Like, I don't think of them as beliefs because nothing's really that important, which I talk about all the time. But it's just to allow the energy to flow. And for me to do that in terms of wasting my time and things, I've received millions of comments and all the things that, I've talked about. I don't have a complaint department, and I'll talk about this again as we move forward. But, I don't have any of those. This is a place where I want to debate people. I'm not interested in people's opinions, negative ones particularly. And I don't care about, the subject matter. And so people will react. There's times in life where everyone experiences this. You really want to tell somebody else they're a piece of shit, or you're just really, well, guess what? I want to, give my counterpoint. And it's like you're listening to a video, but in your mind, you're having a conversation where there's a back and forth, where you're wanting to express what you think about what the person's saying to them, right? Not just to other people, but to them. And if the person says, yeah, I'm not interested in that at all. I don't want to hear your opinion. I'm not, you can verbalize your opinion about the subject matter in the comment section. But when you're telling me I'm wrong or you're complaining or whatever, it's personal, or you want me to hear what you think about me and my internal world and my opinion. And I said, yeah, I'm not open to that. I make it 100% clear. Everyone should know this, especially if you watch my videos for a while. And what I do with these types of comments, that I'm not here for you to dump your shit on me or whatever it is, right? And so, which I'll cover this all in more in depth as we go through it. But, I put up a boundary, and then when I put up that boundary, you violate that boundary because you just know you're right and you think whatever. You're saying fuck you to whatever I need to do to keep the energy flowing and the videos going because it's just my policy. But then you get blocked and you violated something and you got the consequence you said you were going to get. Warned you. You stick your hand in a beehive and the bees are like buzzing at you. And so you approach and you realize, and they start stinging you and you're like, fuck you, bees, right? I want to steal your honey and I don't think it's fair that you're stinging me, right? Like it's just, you get a consequence in life and you learn to accept consequences. You become an adult person. And so, you instead of accepting the consequences, you're like, well, I don't agree with this policy at all. And so I want you to hear about it. So you write me an email. So now you're a stalker, right? You're stalking. This is stalking behavior. I've put up 2 clear boundaries. I'm saying no. This is a no. You're getting a no from me. I don't want to hear from you. This is not, you're going beyond, or you open up a separate account, another account, and then you leave another comment, because you just have to tell me I'm a piece of shit and that you disagree with me and you just want me to hear your shit. And I don't want to hear it. Like I've made it perfectly clear, right? So this is like stalker behavior. Everybody should kind of be aware of that and understand what I mean by that, right? Because it is. You're stalking me. It's no longer just where you're like leaving a comment, breaking a rule and moving on. and you're still listening to the videos. Like, instead of like, all right, this is a like fuck you move, but then you still want to receive the energy and the information from me and all the other stuff. And so, like, it's a complete violation. Like, I'm giving you a clear no, and you're saying fuck you to my no, and then a second no, just because you want me to hear what you have to say. And I'm not, whatever I read the words, it has nothing to do with me or my opinions. Like, I am not, there's nothing in me is like looking to find out what you think or how you think about it, only from the standpoint that I'm mocking it or something in the comments, that, in these video clips, these voiceovers I do, where I talk about your bullshit, things, because now you're, creating a hostile situation. It's 100% about you. This person is butthurt because they really want to tell me what they feel about me or my opinions, and I don't want to hear it. And they did it anyway, got banned, and now I feel they're butthurt about the fact that they got banned. I'm wrong about banning them, and they want to give me a piece of their mind, right? And I don't want it. I don't want a piece of your mind. I'm not interested in having any part of you. I don't want anything to do. I don't want a relationship. You're a fucking stalker, right? You're somebody who's forcing yourself on somebody else. And we all know what the ultimate expression of that is, right? Like, you've been told no, but you're like, no, your no means nothing. And you're not going to be heard by anybody. You're just going to be viewed as a fucking stalker, as a fucking, a violator, or somebody who is trying to force themselves on somebody else. No, but if you just listen to me, you'll figure out how great I am and how great my thoughts are. No, this way of being. Like, when you're, someone's shut you out. Like, you'll experience where people are not listening to you. They're staring off into space. They're not receiving anything in life. And, why are you still talking then? Why are you wasting your energy? For me, like, I'm like, there's people who want to listen to me. Like, I don't need to do this, right? I don't need to, force my opinion on somebody. And then there's a state where somebody is no longer ever going to want to listen to you or your thoughts, and is not concerned. And this is what happens in divorces and things, where people have real severe falling out with family members and people, where there's just like, people are dead to you. I no longer care about what you think or say. You're no longer your opinion. You're someone's manipulative, whatever it might be, and people just completely close you out, right? And so this is what you're doing. Like, you have to accept disappointments in life. You have to accept boundaries that people put up, and you can't force people to listen to you and listen how great you think you are, right? How wonderful your thoughts are, how wonderful your opinions are. It happens all the time, and people on the internet feel like there's this God-given right where they get to tell other people they suck and they're full of shit. And, and then when they get shut down, they can't let it go. There's a guy years ago, and this is the category anybody who does this is in that category. So there was a guy that died, Chester Bennington, and his wife, Talinda. And, this is back when I covered Illuminati sacrifice, and, people lots of people don't even believe these celebrities die, whatever. There's various, theories and thoughts about all these things. And he, Chester Bennington, whatever, who cares, don't care, don't tell me, I don't need to know. And, I covered these people, and I always cover them like they're not real, they're part of a show. And some person got really upset at me, and I didn't, register at the time. I called his wife Talinda. I said, like, could you have more of a, and maybe it's not Talinda, whatever her name is. I could look up his name, but it's like a witch-like name. And I was like, is there ever more of a, and she looked like a witch. She had dark hair and, whatever, some like tattoo, whatever it was. She looked witch-like. And the person was very upset that I was insulting bereaved people, all that shit, right? Mocking them. And of course I wasn't doing it because I'm not doing it to her personally. She was not watching my videos, this whole thing. But the person was very upset and wrote me a comment, and I banned the person. And I didn't think anything of it because I wouldn't have known that. But a couple years later, my wife's Papillon dog, Farley, it was a cute 4-pound Papillon, the cutest little dog, dies. And my wife was very upset. She was getting older, but she was a great little dog. And the person wrote me a fucking 2-page letter that started off with, I've been waiting for this to happen to you. So this person was blocked and was continuously listening to my videos and waiting for some tragedy to befall me. And the person, I of course didn't read the whole email, but the person was like, couldn't wait to tell me I deserved to suffer the pain and suffering of my poor little dog dying. It's a complete stalking, fucked up behavior. Like, like they're sending me an email now because they're blocked and sitting away waiting for a tragedy to befall me because they thought I was being insensitive to Chester Bennington's family and whatever it was, and that this was, and not seeing that they were so much, you could make a case that what I was doing is, not cool or whatever. You can, whatever. Like it's legitimate, like thing or whatever. But I explained my thinking about it. And when I hear somebody famous dies or anybody dies, I don't know that person. Like I don't even know if they're real. I mean, whatever. I don't feel anything for those people, right? And I would never go to the woman's page and try to, hey, you look like a witch and your fucking husband, you blood sacrificed your husband, right? I would never, even Erica Kirk, I'm not trying to, tell her she's a piece of shit. Like I just do it for my audience and what my opinions and feelings are. Like I'm not trying to make somebody who might be bereaved feel bad, right? Like I just on the principle, I wouldn't do that. If they choose to watch my videos like anybody else, you're choosing to listen to me. You're choosing to watch my videos. So you come in and you're watching my videos and you can unchoose to watch them. Like I don't want to listen to you. Like I wouldn't watch videos if you were talking, maybe if you're somebody who had some information I was interested in. But for the most part, there's people I choose to listen to and people I don't. And you get into that category where I'm like, oh, I don't want to listen to you, just like you have categories. And you can move on with your life, but people don't want to just move on with their life. They want to reach out and tell people that they're a piece of shit, right? In this case, the person, didn't like my policies. I banned the person. They could move on. But instead of being banned, they have to come back with a fucking email. Like I really, really, really want to tell you what a piece of shit you are, and I'm very upset that you won't listen to me. Well, yeah, get away, fucking stalker, right? You fucking stalker, right? This is not, there's a boundary there, and you're pushing past it. And so you're in this category of this, person that, that was waiting for my dog to die. Like that's the kind of person you're put in that category. Like that's my experience of people who are doing shit like this, who are lingering, lurking around, waiting for the opportunity to tell me, haha. And this person's doing it. Hey, you know what? I've been waiting. I'm glad to see your channel's dwindling. Maybe it wouldn't dwindle if you didn't ban people. I'm getting banned. Don't ban me. Why'd you block me? I really want to say what I want to say. And so this is, this is this is a jumping off point. All right, so let's go back to the comment again. But you blocked me because I probably made one comment that you didn't like. Usually I'm grateful. Oh, congratulations. And something inspires me to comment to a video, so I do it. You talk about Trump not liking criticism. What difference with you? What different with you? So you think I'm like Trump, based in whatever amount of hours, whatever amount of hours you've watched my videos, you can't think about ways that I'm different than Trump. You think my blocking, complaining commenters who are told I don't have a complaint department and, this isn't open the door for you to critique me endlessly like everyone does on the internet, that I don't, that's not welcome here on my own videos is different from what Trump does, right? So you can't distinguish between me and Trump, right? Like trying to compare me to Trump and saying that me blocking fucking people who just suck, right? Who come to my channel and want to suck up the channel and leave their toxic energy is similar to what Trump does in terms of his inability to take criticism. And so I think most people would know the difference between me and Trump, right? So let me say this first, and then I'll get into the differences to dumb fucks who can't figure it out for themselves. People who are oblivious to the inability to differentiate between two people. So the first part is I make it very clear on my channel that I'm not open to your critiques, your complaints, your bullshit energy or whatever it is. And I'm not interested in your opinion. If you had a YouTube channel, and you might be brilliant and a great person, but I don't even care about this stuff. Like, I don't even care about my own opinion. You guys care about it. Like, people who are interested in my views on things. And I like making the jokes, because they make me happy to make the jokes. I mean, I find them funny. So that's good for me. And, I have opinion of these things, or information comes through me, flows through me, or whatever it might be. But I don't care about it, because I think this is a dying system. And I said I don't care about my own beliefs, so don't care about yours. And I'm not interested in talking about Trump with other people. I don't, if somebody's funny, like it's a comedian, or they have something insightful, or, so it's humorous, or there's something, entertaining about it, or somebody does a really good rant about Trump or whatever, comes up with a good meme. I like the memes, these things. But I don't really give a shit about people's opinions about politics and all this stuff. So I don't care about my own opinions. I don't even listen to myself. I don't enjoy re-listening to the stuff that I've already said. I'm not a fan of my own show. And so I've made it perfectly clear. I don't want to debate people or hear your opinion. I'm not open for it. Like, if you want to say your opinion about something, if it's something useful to me, I'll read it. If it isn't, whatever. But don't make it about me. If you want to have an opinion about me and you want to tell me I suck in one way or another, I'm not open to that. I'm not fishing for compliments. I'm not saying people have to tell me how great I am, because I don't need that either, right? I don't, I feel good about what I produce here in terms of content, and I'm always improving just because my spiritual evolution, but I don't look at my stuff as being the word of God, and I'm not, I don't have any power or say. I just, I'm just bullshitting like other people on the internet. And so, I don't take it seriously. I don't take what I do seriously here. But what I don't want particularly is people who suck and are miserable, and they want to dump their shit, their anger, their frustration. They get butthurt, and they want to dump their shit on me. And I make it very clear I'm not open to that. Like, your energy, I can feel your energy, and I don't want to have a relationship with you. And so, if you are commenting to me directly and it's of a negative, you're about to say something negative about me or my content or my views, just don't do it. And if you do it, I'll block you or ban you, right? Because people are just looking to dump their negative shit. They want to take some sort of psychic dump on people because they feel like shit, and they just want to go to the internet and tell other people they're full of shit and they suck. And after living with my ex-wife and having to deal with her craziness and all that shit, I reached a level of aversion to it. Not that I'm above criticism, but I'm not, here to be somebody's punching bag because their life sucks. And, so those are the rules. And if you're not mature enough to obey the rules, then I don't want you here. If this person's saying, let's go back to, with that in mind, let's go back to the beginning of this. So your channel is dying a slow death. Maybe if you didn't block everyone who commented something you didn't like, you might retain more viewers. You mean more viewers who want to shit on me and shit on the content and complain to me and drop their shit? What kind of fucking job do you think I want to have, right? Why would I want that? Why would I want people who just complain and talk negatively and drop their psychic shit? And I get millions of comments. I've had 2 million comments. And so it'd be a constant stream of comments. And so I make it clear, and I don't want people who can't acknowledge a boundary. If you put a boundary up in your relationship with people and you said, if you do this, we're done. Right? I'm not tolerating this kind of behavior, whatever it is, right? I'm not here to be nagged. I'm not here to be, again, if you can articulate things in a positive way, for example, when my wife wants me to close the drawers when I'm cooking, because, she inevitably has to clean out the drawers later on. And that's a legitimate complaint, right? That's not really a complaint. It's a, it's a something where, and I do my best to do it. It's not like I leave the drawers open on purpose. I just get sort of hyper-focused and, whatever I'm cooking and doing things. But for the most part, I want to cooperate with that because it is unfair for me to leave the drawers open and get things in the drawers, right? So that's a legitimate, you work your relationships out with people and people say, oh, this bothers me when you do this. And if it's something you're like, oh, yeah, I guess that makes sense, I'll work on changing that. But that's not what we're talking about here. Because, I say all the time, I get so many complaints about swearing, but then I get so many people say, oh, I love you swear. I love you swearing. So who's right? The people who are pro-swearing or the people who are against swearing? So I'm going to do it the way I want to do it. And the people who like me swearing, then they'll stay. And the people who don't like me swearing, you either deal with it or you fuck off. That's how I feel about it. Like, why should I try to pander to everybody? I don't pander here. So that's, and I'm certainly not going to pander to people. I've said before, I don't like the parable, and a lot of bullshit in the Bible. But there's, this idea in the Bible of the prodigal son. There's 11 kids that are great kids and they stay, and the prodigal son leaves. And this prodigal son comes back, and the father gives him a big feast. And, my brother once said to me when he was teaching me how to be a landscaper, he said, you're going to find out the good customers you're going to neglect. And the ones that whine all the time, you'll spend more time and energy, and you'll try to do a better job for them. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like that. I don't like rewarding for whining behavior. In fact, I don't do it. Like, I don't, you don't, in terms of the behaviorist model of psychology, which is a legitimate model, you punish the behaviors that you want to get rid of to extinguish those behaviors, and you reward the behaviors that you want to continue. And so I don't reward behaviors for people. People complain that I don't reward them, and I ban them, and I don't really want you here because you're not grateful, right? Like, if you're a complaining piece of shit, then you're not grateful. And so for all of these reasons, I make it very clear I don't have a complaint department, and I'm not here to listen to your critiques of my work here. And anybody who does so gets blocked or banned. And if I say that up front and you guys know that's the policy, then you violate the policy. If I go somewhere, or even on YouTube, for example, and YouTube gives a bunch of bullshit community guidelines. Like, I couldn't talk about COVID at all, which was bullshit. Almost every community guideline strike I got was a bullshit rule. And I know it's a bullshit rule because YouTube has changed those rules. Those rules weren't in place before. They made the rule. They took people's channels away, at least gave them community guideline strikes and did shit. There's times I couldn't post for a whole week because I got a bullshit community guideline strike. And did I complain endlessly about it? Maybe I'd mention it to you guys. But, there was no reason to complain to YouTube because you can't complain to them anyway. And so I just stopped doing it because, why do it if they're going to just take my video down anyway? Why work for an hour and a half making a video and put something in there maybe for 5 minutes that will cause the video to be taken down? Like, I just had to knuckle under to their bullshit rules, right? And so if you don't like my rule and you don't think my rule is justified, of course, you're not on my side. You're not empathizing with my situation where I have to, go through millions of comments. I've blocked like 10,000 people. So that, more than that, like, I could scroll down and show you all the various people I've blocked. And so you adding more and more negativity to my existence, and you want to make it personal, right? Like, that's the other thing. You're personally addressing me, and you want to say to me, like, just like this letter, hey, you're full of shit, right? And, like, using this opportunity, because I'm saying my channel's dying. Well, maybe if you didn't block everybody, maybe if you didn't block all those fucking piece of shit complainers, you'd have more viewers. Yeah, I don't want to listen to complainers. If my channel success is based on having worthless pieces of shit people who I don't like complaining constantly and being negative towards me, then no thanks, right? I want to be clear about something. When I say stuff like people are dummies or dumb fucks or piece of shit, it's my limited view of the person, right? Like, part of the reason that we have what's called prejudice, we prejudge, is because, we are, and even, animals on a lower level of consciousness, you get blasted by a skunk and, you go, oh, I'm going to stay away from that thing, right? I'm staying away from you. Like, last time I messed with one of these motherfuckers, I talked about this time when my dogs and I were walking and there was a skunk. And luckily Tulsi didn't see it because she would have fucking charged. And it growled at us. That's why I knew it was there. And I called my dogs, and Tulsi was right next to me. And usually she would have picked up on it because she's, dogs have a great sense of smell. I mean, their smell is intertwined in their whole bodies. But, anyway, so, but, you see a skunk, and you have animals like moths that will, replicate the face of an owl, for example, or something like this, right? There's snakes like the coral snake, and then I forget what the other snake that looks just like it, the milk snake, I think it is. the milk snake and the coral snake look identical. The coral's poisonous. They have the same, the same colors. Their patterns are different, right? There's some kind of limerick to go with it, like red in the middle, stay the fuck away, like some shit like that, right? But we identify people that were negative, like types of people, and there are things that that you do that other people are going to react to because they've dealt with people just like you or people who have your qualities, and you might have other great qualities. This might be some ego manifestation, but deep down you have a soft heart or you have some potential. But the way that you project and it's the way that when you're doing a psychological assessment, you would write something like the person presents as this, and just your initial vibe and that you give off. And I recognize that I give off I don't want to interact with you kind of vibe, right? I'm off-putting, right? I tell the story about how I had a booth when I was starting a psychology business, Pranhuiti counseling. And my ex, who was much more, personable, even though she's a nightmare crazy, nightmare crazy person, succubus. I set up this booth at this kind of wellness center. And I was watching people go from the booth to my right and the booth to my left, and then purposely walk in the opposite direction and get 10 feet away from me and my booth, and then go to the next one. Like they were skipping me intentionally. But when my ex was there, people were coming up to talk to her because, she had different kinds of energy. I would assume the way I see it, I'm a much better person than her, but in terms of like just how our appearances are and the way that we present, the way that we think about other people, I'm not friendly, I'm not, engaging, I'm not social. And just the way people in my family look, there's a kind of an intimidation kind of thing there. People who look in a certain way, the Italian dark kind of stuff that I have, whatever it is. And I knew that when we were getting divorced, that people were just immediately going to think I was the problem. Like I looked at the picture and I just thought, I could just tell. Like I understand how I present to other people, and so you got to understand that, like how people are reacting to, what you are about, and when people are coming, into my framework or my consciousness, and the first thing they're doing is complaining, even though they like my channel and they like what I'm giving them, but they choose to complain. Like oftentimes they lurk and they don't say anything positive and they're absorbing, and then I make what they perceive as a mistake, and the first thing they do is point it out. Well, you're a negative piece of shit person as far as I'm concerned. Like, why would I want that? You're just saying, you're putting up a big red flag and saying, like, yeah, like you don't want anything to do with me. I'm a fucking nightmare. Look at me. I'm a piece of shit nightmare. So when I say that stuff, the way that people present, people have more to offer than the limited things we see in them. But if you're going around and that's how you interact with people, like I wouldn't do that. I watch videos all the time. I never leave a negative comment. There's a Sajmark channel that still puts up videos of Master Chargy. And I really dislike it when they put music in there because it wrecks the energy and the flow and the transmission you receive. Like I don't like any video where there's music behind the person talking. Like, if you can't sit there and listen to somebody without manipulating them with music, or you expect that somebody, what are you trying to hide, right? And so I confronted the guy. I left a comment saying, it wrecks the condition on all the things I just said. And the guy said, well, sometimes the videos that I find already have the music in them. It's not my choice. And I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And it sucks that people have put music on these videos, and that's, maybe the only copy that's left of him talking, and so you don't get the full effect, right? But, I said it in a non, aggressive manner for the obvious reasons, and so that's what I mean when I say these things. Like you're presenting, this is the person that you become. You buck the rules, and you're saying, oh, I can't respect boundaries. Well, as soon as you do that, then that's well, for me, if I put a boundary up and like I don't fucking know you, then that's you're a person that why would I want to have any kind of I don't want, this is it, our thing's done. Whatever you think is going on, whatever conversations you're having in your head, whatever you think is in this relationship, as far as I'm concerned, you're just saying, yeah, you don't want anything to do with me, which I don't. Like I don't want anything to do with any of these people, and so you get blocked and you come back and write an email, right? Like you're saying, look at me, I'm a stalker. Like like any kind of chance there is of me having a positive association with you is gone. Like that's your first, second, third, and fourth impression. So whatever brilliant things that you think you have to say, like, I'm not interested. You're like, the door's been closed, and you fucking closed it, right? You were told, how to close the door, and you said, all right, good, I'm going to close the door. And then you're complaining that you closed the door, right? You're complaining to me for your actions that closed the door. So let's go forward here. Let's go back to the letter. Where is it? If you didn't block everybody and comment something you didn't like, you might retain more viewers. But you blocked me because I probably made one comment that you didn't like. Usually I'm grateful. Okay. So you violated the rule and you got consequence for it. And if you were an adult and you were somebody who was introspective in terms of your behavior, maybe you would, how do you not know what it was? Like, you got blocked. So what did you get blocked for? You don't know what it was. You don't know what you said. You didn't consciously go, maybe I'll get blocked for this. Or maybe he'll actually, take my comment and make fun of it. Like, you didn't think those things were possible outcomes, having listened to me for whatever amount of hours you listened. You didn't fucking know that. And when I blocked you, that's a form of, setting a limit based in me saying, if you say these things, you're going to be blocked. Instead of taking it like a fucking man and thinking about, oh, why did I do that, right? I want to comment, and now I can't comment anymore. I like this channel, and I'm grateful, supposedly, because the person says, usually I'm grateful. Well, gratitude isn't like, well, I'm grateful most of the time, except when I'm shitting on you, right? And so, you're not thinking about it. Like, you're saying to me that I can't take criticism, but when you got consequenced, which is a form of criticism, you immediately took no responsibility for breaking the rules and doing a boundary that I said, don't do this. If you do this, this is going to happen. And then you're going to write to me instead of taking the thing and, you could have wrote to me and saying, I said this thing. I know it was against the rules. I was being immature. I was being selfish. I was being a prick. I was being a worthless piece of shit, or just something, right? This way. And can you please unblock me? Because I've unblocked people before. But again, you do it again and it's permanent. Like, but if you come and like apologize and take responsibility, but instead this guy, I only wrote one paragraph and then there's like a much bigger paragraph and then another one. And I didn't even get into that because I don't want to read your shit, right? I don't care what you think. I'm not, if you had a YouTube channel, I wouldn't watch it. And I don't want you here, like not just in terms of commenting. I don't think you should benefit from what I'm putting out there, which I'll say in a moment when we get to the Trump part, right? So again, you can't take criticism. Like, you were given a limit and you want special treatment. You want me to give you something that I say I don't want. You want me to give you a pass because what? Because you're fucking special? Why should you get a pass? Like, I make rules that also save my time and energy. Like, I don't need to read shitty comments about how bad I suck, for whatever amount of time I'm going through the comment section. And so I block all those people because I don't want to have to listen to those people nag and complain and, get butthurt and run, just go away. If you don't like the channel, get the fuck out. If you think the channel's worth something, then you're receiving something and you're giving me back toxic energy. So fuck you. Like, fuck all you people who take from me, benefit from what I do, and then give back toxic energy. And don't take any responsibility for your toxicity. Like, why would anybody want to be around you? Why would anybody love you or want to be near you, or if that's the kind of person you are? You want to take and then give back. You want to take something good and shit back toxic energy on the person that's giving you the stuff. And so if you are grateful, you learn to shut the fuck up because that's what the rules say. Just shut the fuck up. I'm not saying you have to kiss my ass like Trump and butter me up and tell me how great I am. I don't need that from you either. Like, I don't need anything. So just, take what you're getting for free of, any kind of obligation from your end, and just don't fucking, shit in the shit where you eat and, and kill the golden goose that you're getting something from. I'm grateful. Usually I'm grateful. And something inspires me to comment to a video, I do it. Okay, well then fucking suffer the consequences because I make my rules very clear. And I give all the reasons for it. It should be logical to everybody from my end why I do it. And it's better for me. And if it sucks for you, get the fuck out. I don't care. Like, just, you don't have to be here. I'm not begging you to be here. and you talk about Trump not liking criticism, what different with you? I think it's what's different with you, or I don't know. But you know what the person's saying. So if you don't understand what's different with me, number one, I don't need lavish amounts of praise. Like, it doesn't do for me what it does for Trump. And for one, I don't think I'm great. Like, I'm not, am I better than other people? Well, that's, debatable. Am I smarter than people? Yeah, I have a higher IQ or higher consciousness than the majority of people. I'm on the high end of that kind of thing, whatever it might be. Do I make a lot of mistakes? Sure. Like, I've made mistakes in my life, these things. But I know my flaws. Like, I know things that I would like to correct or things that are, weaknesses. Like, I can see far from perfect. I don't think I'm perfect. Like, that's, that should be obvious to everyone. Not that, I'm doing my best with what I have, right? Like, so, I mean, this is, and maybe I'm not even doing my best, but I feel like I'm contributing something. Like I said, I feel like what I do here is a gift. And for some people, it's not a gift. For some people, they don't want to hear it. It hurts their feelings. It goes against their belief systems. They don't understand it. They're too stupid. They're whatever. I don't know. It's not for everybody, but some people feel like it is. And for those people, I continue to crank out the work, and I get somewhat compensated, not to the degree I need or want. And so that was the issue. And let me just go back to this first part here where the guy says, so your channel is dying a slow death. Maybe if you didn't block everyone who commented something you didn't like, you might retain more viewers. Now, when I said my channel's dying a slow death, now I'm not negating the asshole part of what I do. Like, I'm not, a networker. There's things that I'm limited in. Like, I could, people want to be acknowledged. So I could do those, like, live videos where your comments show up and I could read your name and say, hey, thank you, so-and-so and so-and-so. And, hey, how you doing, whatever. And, these things. Like some of you guys want contact. Like this person writing me this email, instead of, writing an email apologizing and saying I'd like you to unblock me, or just sitting there and lurking because they no longer can comment, but just absorbing the material and realizing that they fucked up because they broke a rule and they violated a boundary I put there. The guy doubles down and writes me a long email because he wants me to hear him. The reason he commented in the first place, people want me to hear what they think. They want to have a conversation. They want to have a relationship, and I don't want that. I'm not a personable person, and I wouldn't do very well in the super chat thing or whatever they call that. But people would like that, and that would, people would donate more money if I called them out, and, people would, this whole thing, people need to be, hey, everyone, look at me, I want to, he said something about me, this, and that's weird for me anyway. Like, I'm not a celebrity, I'm not the spiritual master that, people would like that with Master Chargy and these other people. I produce this content, and I understand people are going to listen to it, but I'm by myself when I'm talking. I'm just talking to myself here. It's kind of a weird job, but, it has value to people, and I do a better job with all that kind of thing. But I'm not interpersonal. Like, people would be disappointed if they met me, and, people say I'd like to have a beer with you, which I don't drink, but, I'm not like a great hang, like fucking... I've had friends over the years and whatever it is, but, it isn't like I'm really good socially. Most people would be disappointed, and that's not what I do here. So if you're looking for something social, you're looking for acknowledgement, you're looking for any number of things that I can't provide, that's not what I deliver. Like, the content itself has to have its own value. What my ideas, the energy, and the stuff to do with the divinity within me or you and whatever, that kind of thing. Find your divinity within. And then the humor and all the stuff. Like, there's, if you find them entertaining, I don't know. Like, I'm not sure why people watch the videos. Like I said, I myself am not really a fan. Like, I get it. Like, I understand, things that people find funny or, the things that people enjoy about it. But it's a select group of people. And I'm not here for dumb fucks. I'm not here for left-wing, right-wing paradigm people that I'm still buying. It's a different kind of audience and vibe that you'll get here than pretty much any channel on YouTube. But when I said this, like, I don't talk about the channel that much, and I see the numbers and I see the lack of money, and, I don't say please subscribe, but every once in a while I do a meta video and I talk about the situation. And, and if people want to contribute or financially, or find a way to promote the channel or do anything, pray. There's any way that you could give back and put some energy. Praying or, doing whatever in terms of some spiritual stuff or whatever you might do, like to, recommend the videos. I don't know what. Like, it's if you feel the need to give back, then, some way, like whatever it is, or just be aware, hey, this is like struggling, and, this is why, and I'm up against it because of YouTube. But I recognize that I could have certain type of personality that would bring in more people. I could pander to dumb fucks and tell people what they want to hear. I could be a Trumper or a Christian or a liberal or, be pro-select, any number of ways I could get lots of viewers. And the number one is to make worse content that panders to dumb fucks and panders to audiences that I don't want, people I don't like, people I don't respect, and people I don't want a relationship with. So, I have whatever I have here. But even with that, if YouTube was recommending my videos properly, I'd have, my channel would be growing and not shrinking, and it would be fine. I would be thriving and everything would be great. But that's the situation, right? So there needs to be some help, member-supported help in one way or another. And if there isn't that, then my, whatever. Like, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't have a plan right now. But what I wasn't asking for is a bullshit suggestion that's totally about yourself. So your channel is dying a slow death. Maybe if you didn't block everybody who commented something you didn't like, you might retain more viewers. Well, you're still watching, fuckhead, right? You're still here watching the fucking videos, even though you're blocked. And even so much so, you want more attention from me. You want to connect with me. You want to have some kind of fucking dialogue. You want me to hear your fucking wonderful opinion about, that's completely self-serving. Maybe I shouldn't block all those assholes, right? Like, what do you think the reaction's going to be? Like, of course you would hear the reaction is going to be, why the fuck are you writing me an email? why do I get an email blocked on YouTube? So if you see the content as some sort of a gift for you, like, you're benefiting from the content, whatever way it is, you can either just take the gift, receive the gift, and keep your mouth shut and, obey the fucking, the limited rules that I have and, the rules that I've gone over time and time again, and I've just gone over them again in this thing. If you can't do that, accept that this isn't meant for you. There's like, there's nothing here. You go somewhere else. Like, people want everything to be tailored to them. That's the other problem with Americans, which I'm not even going to get into here. People want to order something special. This is have it your way, like a fucking Burger King. Can't have it your way here. Like, this is, I'm willing to do this. Like, this is what I'm willing to do. People give me suggestions about how I can, people gave me suggestions with the merch. And, I sucked at the merch. I don't know if the merch was good. Some people liked it, I guess. I don't know. And I sold $1,800 worth of merch, and then the company stole the money. I didn't see a dime of the fucking money. And, it'd been great if I'm a businessman and I could do that. I suck at all that shit. And I was supposed to get help, but the help disappeared. And next thing I know, the money disappeared. And it was just whatever. But people have these suggestions of things other people do. Like I said, having these, we're doing live videos and having people comment. And yeah, that works for some people, but not for me. Other people do interviews and promote their channel. And like, I try to do, I'm not going to do interviews, but I try to do things to promote my channel, but I'm not good at that shit. I'm not a businessman. Like, I don't do clerical work this is what I'm able to do. This is the amount of time and energy I'm willing to put into this work. And I'm getting compensated, unfairly, right? At least in terms of the quality of my work. And, my money's going down and the quality of my work's going up. So it's like an invertendo type situation, right? And so with all that, people want to fucking burden me with more of their bullshit and they want to take up more of my time and energy. It's just like, the selfishness. I'm saying this is why people don't make content forever. They just get tired of all the bullshit. It seems like a great job, but there's all these other things because you're dealing with this level of consciousness. And why I, push back against it, I'm making these this long section about it because it's a real problem, and not that me talking about it's going to make it disappear, but I want to make sure everyone who does those things here feels, as unwelcome as they possibly fucking can. Okay, so I want to break in here. I've actually added like 3 things already. Today's Sunday, June 20th, not just because of this one comment, because I've seen this behavior over and over again. I've had this channel for almost 20 years now. 2007 and 2014 was when it really popped. So 12 years of, being real successful. Even before that, like all these things are, microcosm of a bigger internet picture. And, there are a lot of people out there who get very upset about, they try to frame it as you're censoring. Don't censor people. Don't block them because that's censorship. And are you against censorship? I've heard all kinds of this bullshit, which gets, those people get banned, as quick as anybody else, quicker even, because it's complete bullshit, right? They frame it as that, but what people want to do on the internet, and I want this to be a quintessential, I want to exhaust every little shitty thing about it, right? I want to make sure, at least it's put out into the ether. If you watch my videos, and I always talk about how protests don't work. Like, protests are pointless, and they have collateral damage, blocking the traffic, annoying other people for something. I saw these gayish, retarded, people with the No Kings protests smiling and high-fiving each other in a very Republican area. It's not going to change a vote. It's not going to change anybody's mind. It's just you and your people going out there and having a little fucking pity party or whatever the fuck it is, right? And these comments are just another version of that. Because the real intention behind these comments, almost 100% of the time, and at least it's always partially there, the primary intention is you want to make me, in this case, or whoever else you're commenting or arguing with on the internet feel bad, right? This person writing these comments to me, and then this letter and whatever it is, and the rest of these people, they want me to feel bad. But that's what it's about. They want to ruin my day. They want to make me think about it. They want to, cause pain. I mean, the majority of the internet are people trying to cause pain to each other. When you get into these arguments, and I dealt with this with my ex, and you get into these arguments, and, she was just psychologically fucked, and whatever part I played in lashing out and saying things, I've learned not to do that. Like, I had to retrain myself, to the best of my ability. You can't maybe extinguish some tendencies, but you can minimize them. Of course, there's a cleaning process inside your mark system. But my need to hurt people's feelings when I feel bad, or, if they do something to me and lash out, and, it makes something they do to make me feel bad, and not say, all right, I'm going to get even, or I'm going to lash out at them, or somebody makes you feel bad, and then you take it out on somebody else. I mean, that's part of the problem. I had this great meme, which I'm not going to go find, but it showed, some boss yelling at his employee, and the employee going home yelling at his wife yelling at his kid, and the kid yelling at his dog, right? It's a trickle-down effect. And if you, wreck my mood, then it's going to affect my, how I perform in terms of being a husband and, with my dogs. And, there's a lot of ways that doing this job, I could be in a bad mood all the time. It's why people stop creating content, because it's just too much people fucking getting angry. And, just because I don't believe what you believe, or I say an idea you don't like, and you're like, I got to fucking make this person feel bad. I got to, send negative energy. I'm going to hit them with a whammy. And that's the majority of these comments, right? And, I could be bummed out all the time based on just the depravity that I see on a daily basis. And, thank God for the Sage Mark system, or I wouldn't be able to do this job. I mean, and I wouldn't be good at it either if I didn't have it. But, based in the mainstream story and then the way that people act online, there's very little inspiration. And it's like when you got a bunch of assholes, when you got a negative person, they suck up all the oxygen. And so all the hardworking people that you don't notice, all the good people that keep their mouths shut, all the people who are well-behaved and contributing, people who give back, don't get noticed, just like in a family, in a society. The people who are, the cream of the crop are overshadowed by people yelling, hey, look at me, everybody look at me, I need attention, look at me, look at me, why aren't you looking at me? You don't look at them, look at me. And the ironic thing about this, all these people that cry that when you ban people, you're censoring them, the very nature of negative comments is for you to be censored. It's censorship. It's social censorship. When all those dumb fuck flat earthers would come over, and if you mentioned anything that indicated you believed in the round earth model, they would go, it's flat, you flat, in a way to try to stop you from saying it's round. Like, they're, all these people who complain, oh, I'm unsubscribing, that's censorship. That's saying, if you say things I don't agree with, then I'm unsubscribing and I'm going to leave you a hostile comment. This wonderful person who left me the comment in the email is saying that, well, maybe you'd have more viewers if you didn't ban everybody. That's a way to censor me. That's putting the idea out, stop banning people and just enjoy people, shitting on you. And, it's not the one time. It's they're going to keep on doing it. And it just creates negativity in the comment section. And then other people start arguing with them. And it just becomes like defending me. You don't need it. You're just, like it's a little brat having a tantrum because you said something they don't like. And then it creates all this negativity in the video. And people lose sight of the content because of all the drama. So, it's imperative. It's like I'm doing a service by going through these comments and getting rid of the hostile people. And I don't want those people here. Like, they don't deserve to be here. It's not just their ability to comment. I don't want them here, right? Like, people, as you go through life, there's things you got to look at as red flags and deal breakers when you meet people and have relationships with them. And people are defining themselves. They're saying, that they're warning you that they're a toxic person and they're worthless and they're, just going to be a drain on you. Non-contributing people in your life, people you work with, someone you might hire, someone you might work for, or whatever it is. And those people just suck the life out of you, suck the energy out of you. And I already had that. After going through what I went through with my ex and the whole family drama, it's like, I gave up all the energy I could to people like that. Like, it's a well-known principle. Years ago, there was this really obnoxious fucking preceptor who was, and there's quite a few of them that did the Sajmark system. These are Americans. And this guy was just really, I knew one of my friends who I talked to quite a bit was in this guy's center. It was in Boston. And he hated this guy. Like, it was affecting his spiritual growth because he hated him so much because the guy was so horrible. And this guy's kids were, they had this ashram. It was on a hill, kind of a small mountain hill, in rural Georgia outside of Atlanta, about an hour and a half out of Atlanta. And there was a person that owned the other half of the hill. And there was maybe a little hunting shack there or something. And these kids walked onto that property. And it was very dense. Like, I don't even know how they got there. They were city kids. And they found a gun. They found the guy's gun and they brought it back to the fire. Just worst kind of situation. The Indian people and, educated Indian people and liberals, and some kid grabs a gun and just, problem with the neighbors. And Chargy was like really bummed. And he usually came, there was like a sort of kids would put on a play, or, some of them would do Indian dance and some people sang, there was like a talent show at the end. It was kind of fun. It was okay. Some of the kids had talent. Sometimes it was some adults, whatever it was, some performances. And Chargy didn't come to that. And there was this Italian preceptor, really rich guy. He was like a race car driver or some shit. He was, very big personality. Salvatore's dead now. And I talked to him a few times. Like, people gravitate to me when they're Italian people because, I look Italian or whatever, somewhat. And he was saying to me that Chargy, the thing he dislikes most is when there's disharmony. And there always was drama because people are going through a cleaning. And he says when there's disharmony, the work stops, which, of course, is a very obvious thing to say, but people don't think about it. But in your experience, when you're fighting with your wife or you're fighting with your family or you're fighting at work and there's adversarial shit going on, you don't focus on any of the other things. Like, everything stops. When I was having these issues with my ex, having her mental breakdowns and psychotic breakdowns, and these things would go on for days, and she would get into some kind of psychotic, fucking disassociative state, where there'd be altered personalities and other shit emerging. All this stuff that I endured with her. And, the energy just goes out of everything, right? Because you don't have energy to do the positive. So you have to, like, work harmoniously. Just keep the peace and learn how to, not negatively affect people. It's a whole thing that I had to go through. It wasn't my tendency. But to talk positively and focus on the positive and be grateful. That's what I say all the time. And that's the attitude that people who want to be on this channel need to take, or just don't comment. Like, choke back your tendencies. You can either say, positive things or go somewhere else because, and again, I don't mind if people have their own opinions about something as long as it's not addressed to me. I don't give a shit if people are, when people want me to hear that I'm wrong and they're right, which is an overwhelming aspect of fucking, in dumb fuck land. And almost 100% of the time they're wrong, and the other percent maybe that's debatable. But usually they just don't understand, or they're just too remedial to understand what I'm saying here. You know, and if you're more sophisticated and you think it comes across any differently, when somebody comes in and tells me I'm wrong about Erica Kirk or Britney Spears or Trump, some dumb fuck MAGA person, or religion, and you think you're so right, but it's just you have a more limited opinion, and you can't break free from your own indoctrination. Even if it's more sophisticated than those dumb fucks, you're still the same to me, right? It comes across the same to me, and it's just a disgruntled person who is a butthurt about something I said or did, and they're taking it personally when I don't even know who the fuck they are, and they're in some sort of mid rant where they're like going off like some crazy homeless fucking crackhead, right? And I'm not here for that shit. All right, let's get back to what I was saying. So another thing that's different between me and Trump would be Trump is asking you for something. Your support, your money, your whatever it is, right? Your vote, whatever, politicians get. But I don't have that here. Like, I produce content, and, you can contribute or not, and you can, support the channel one way or another. But that's 100% entirely up to you, and only if you think it has value. I'm not begging something from you. I'm not, whatever it is. So, like, there's a big difference there. Trump feeds off adoration, right? Which clearly I don't need, and I'm not here for that. Like, I don't appear personally, and I don't interact with people so they can tell me how great I am, and, all these things. Like, it's obvious that I don't, whatever. It should be obvious to everyone that that's not why I do this, right? The other piece is people criticize me all the time. Of course, I'm not as well-known a figure as Trump is, but people criticize me, have said horrible things about me that are untrue. And, outside of my channel, people have made videos about me, things like this, complaints. And that's their right to do. I'm not going to watch it because like I said before, it's narcissistic for me to listen to somebody I wouldn't normally listen to just because they're talking about me, right? And I'm not going to promote them and talk about them when they have some small little channel. I had somebody that was trying to do that to gain more viewers, somebody who was buying views, who, made some stupid videos about me, and I was on my honeymoon. And I was going to go, like, destroy the motherfucker because he was just a weird dude. But then I realized his videos, like, he had a lot of views, but they were fake views. He wasn't, he was using bots, and he was trying to get me to talk about him so that people would find out about his channel, right? People who do that. And so, and bottom line is I don't care. Like, people can say things and it doesn't bother me. But I'm not going to sit there and listen to it. I don't want to hear something. Like, I don't go, hey, can you tell me what a piece of shit I am to people? Like, no one wants that. I mean, and just all the negative energy and all the shit that goes with it. Low energy people with negative energy, people who are hostile, people can't be positive, people who can't take responsibility for themselves, people who can't, become spiritual people because they're too fucked up, right? Like, nobody wants those people in their lives. Like, I want, people who are like good people and people who have, can maximize their abilities or whatever it is, right? Okay, so I had to take a break, and I'm cooking dinner, and the chiropractor responded to me in a way that's bullshit. So, like, I'm dealing with other stuff. Like, I have a life and these things, right? And so, whether people consider me a giver, I don't think people would consider me a taker. Well, Trump is a taker. Trump takes as much as he can, lies about it. It tells you what you want to hear, all these things, which is the exact opposite of what I do here. And, superficial promises and bullshit things based in, bravado and fucking egoism and unrealistic, expectations. And then after failure, takes no responsibility, denies the promises he made, all the things, right? Whereas I'm giving something, offering something here. And I want to make it clear to people, it's limited to what I'm willing to offer. Like, people want more from me. And whenever you come to me and you're saying, I want more from you, like, what am I getting back from you? Like, like, why are you asking for more, right? Like, we don't have a relationship where, what am I receiving, right? In terms of, not just like in some selfish or narcissistic way, but like, what kind of person are you that you're getting something, and instead of taking what I'm giving you on my terms and the terms of the channel, you want to violate those terms and you want more stuff. Writing me long emails after you get blocked, for what reason? Like, why? How is that a thing a good person would do, right? Somebody who isn't being selfish and, all these things, right? Like taking more. And so that's my point about all these things. If that's how my channel has to survive, I'm not, I'm not able to do things I'm not able to do. Be more social, create relationships with people, all these things that people want and so desperately need, but I'm not offering that, right? In terms of use, right? Like I have, specific things that just for me to continuously not have to waste time and, keep a positive attitude. These are the things that I need to keep on cranking out videos. And if that isn't enough, or, YouTube is going to suffocate my channel, it's going to go whatever way it goes. And I can accept that. And, if you have some way to help, then help. If you feel, led to help. But, trying to shit on me and use this as an opportunity to say, hey, fuck you. Fuck you, asshole, right? And whining about how I won't let you talk shit to me on my channel. I mean, you get it. So, this person wrote back to me, the chiropractor, in the midst of all this stuff, and wrote, regarding the Pro Adjuster being used over your chest heart area, Dr. So-and-so confirmed that this is part of our standard protocol. The goal is to gently restore proper motion and function to the structure involved while manually adjusting another option. The Pro Adjuster is generally considered a gentler, safer approach. And the people wrote this, the AI asked the AI Gemini, what do the Pro Adjuster chiropractic machine manufacturers say about using the machine on your chest and over your heart? The manufacturer guidelines from Sigma Instruments that makes the Pro Adjuster and ultra-aligned systems outline very, very strict parameters regarding the direct application of mechanical percussion. The manufacturer explicitly states that the Pro Adjuster machine is designed, calibrated, and clearly primarily for the posterior application of the spine, cervical thorax, and lumbar sacral regions and certain extremities. The guidelines regarding direct application over the chest and heart area includes strict rules. No direct application over the heart. The manufacturer warns against applying direct oscillating percussion force to the anterior chest wall immediately over the cardiac region. Introducing rapid mechanical shock waves directly over the heart could theoretically disrupt cardiac rhythms or cause bruising to the delicate thoracic structures. Number 2, pacemakers and implants, which, doesn't apply to me, but obviously there's more to that. I'm not going to read all these stuff. Open wounds or internal fixation. The instrument may never be used over areas, acute inflammation, active surgical implants, fractured ribs, or open wounds on the chest. Clinicians are taught if the patient presents with an interior chest or sternum pain, which I had, issues with in the past, they must completely rule out underlying cardiac conditions such as myocardial infarction or angina before attempting any type of instrument adjustment anywhere on the thoracic cage. And then it said over here, like I did the original search and then I did a specific AI search. And the original search, it said, chiropractors using the Sigma Pro Adjuster perform a comprehensive medical history to screen for the cardiac and pulmonary conditions before treatment to ensure safe, localized application. So the issue here was fucking, I went in there because I was experiencing more and more irregular heartbeats. But, it was at night and was, occasional, nothing like the whole fucking thing that had happened, right? And when my first day there, I was sitting on a table and the guy was taking my, various readings that they have there. They have a lot of machine readings. And I was kind of agitated, like a little bit, nervous and whatever. My heart was skipping a lot of beats. And the chiropractor said, well, when we tested you, you had a regular heartbeat. I said, yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm coming in. And then they did extensive blood work and other things. So it was well known that I had heart, things going on. And they weren't even supposed to use this machine over in the first fucking place. So I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. And then, it wasn't like I I was like, oh, I wonder if that machine fucks up your heart. The guy used it on my chest area, and then I went home and had fucking a regular heartbeat. And afterwards, I went to this chiropractor. I mean, afterwards, they have a section where you go get acupuncture. I was laying face down, which I don't like, and my chest I was already having a regular heartbeat, so I felt weird after the guy used the machine on, inappropriately on my, fucking my the whole thing, my stomach area, which hurt for like a month afterwards. Like it was tight there, right under my ribs. Like it just wasn't right. Which again, also at the base of the sternum, when I had COVID, it always felt like there was a knot there, and right there, I don't know, if it was a stomach thing or what it was. My first time having COVID, like it was just always tight there, and it bugged the shit out of me. And so these are all things that I would have said had, these things should have been communicated there on their end. But anyways, so like I have these things going on in my own life and whatever it is. And, no one needs to be dumped on the way people dump on each other at the internet. People just want to take a shit on somebody else because of whatever. Personally. Like there's a big difference to when, somebody comments, like I comment about people on my video, which people can choose to watch or not, right? Criticism happens for people, and, people are doing fucked up things, and there's all those things. But when people comment to you personally on your videos and they know you're going to see it, and then they write you personal emails, it's the real desire to make you feel like a piece of shit. That's why I didn't read the rest of the letter, because, the person wants to make me feel bad because I blocked them or whatever the fuck, reason is. People want to hurt you or make you feel bad. Like, I don't wish bad things on people, even these people that are horrible people I cover every day. Because, not that I care about them or whatever, but it's just not a good way to be. Like, I don't want to feel angry or hateful. That's the reason I'm able to do these videos and not feel bad, because I don't, allow myself to have some kind of emotional reaction to how bad other people are sucking. Because if you do that, you're going to be miserable all the time, right? You're going to feel hatred and, despair and these things. Like I, do my best to, to separate myself from the human reaction you have when you see people just failing and doing bad shit on purpose that they're not even enjoying. They're not, reaping the benefits of the money they get or the power that they have, and they lord over other people. They're miserable people who are hurting other people and, refuse to see that the course of action that they've taken is disastrous for themselves and other people on the planet. All right, with that in mind, let me see. I'm going to go check the comments and then wrap this thing up. In between cooking dinner and dealing with the thing, I was talking about the whole thing with the chiropractor and my wife, and so this whole thing. But I wanted to talk about this comment again. I wanted to say this. If you said to a person, hey, I want to critique your work. I want to tell you what a piece of shit you are. I want to tell you how you suck. I want to point out all your flaws. Any number of ways that people express comments where they're, attacking you personally, attacking your beliefs, you can feel the anger and the energy behind it. You want to complain to somebody about how they fucked you or how you think they're fucked up or whatever capacity that is. And if you ask them, is that okay if I do that? The answer would almost always be no, because nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be critiqued. Again, if somebody's looking to improve something in their performance and you're an expert in something, but no one wants to listen to your complaints and listen to you fucking whine and mope. I don't want to listen to that. I could be a therapist. I could, like one of the ways that I could make money is do therapy with people here. I have a master's degree in counseling, and I don't do it. I tried it for a little bit. I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like to listen to other people piss and moan about their bullshit. And the reality is, more often than not, they know what they need to do, and they just don't want to do it. And they just don't want to hear it. So your job is almost impossible, because, they're purposefully putting up a barrier to your, whatever you might tell them that would help them move forward, because they don't want to hear what they will have to do, right? So that's why therapy sucks, and that's why all this stuff in general sucks, right? But if you ask people, if critiquing them was okay, they would pretty much, in most cases say no. And if they did say yes, they'd probably regret saying yes. And so there are situations like if you're a customer and like you get a shitty meal, like something goes wrong. And my wife and I went to a very expensive restaurant that we'd gone to before, and we very seldom go out. And this is whatever it was, and the food was atrocious. They had a new chef. It was horrible. Like I had to ask for salt, and it wasn't the kind of place you'd ask for salt. And I wrote a review because, it's what they're doing is outlandish, and that's like, but I didn't say anything to the waitress. We didn't. Actually, maybe I called the hotel and said, this is subpar. Like you guys can't do this. But I wasn't asking for a refund or a coupon or whatever. It just But the thing sucked. All the different things in the meal sucked. They were all horrible and just subpar. They were bad, even if it was a cheap restaurant. It wasn't. But we could have shit on the waitress and been shitty and complained and made a big scene and, like people do. There's times where, as a customer, you feel like something you've been wronged and you take it out on some poor customer service person. Sometimes, occasionally I get angry or frustrated when there's a tech issue and I'm dealing with some, person from a foreign country or maybe an AI bot, and I start getting angry, and I always have to remind myself to say something, this isn't your fault. Like I'm mad at the system that it's not working properly, right? But, the person on the phone, they're not, oftentimes they're not at all responsible for. Occasionally what they'll do is they'll lie and pretend something, they're going to help you when they can't, or they'll say something that's, and it takes a while for them to finally tell you the truth that you're just fucked because they can't deal with a system that's run by AI and, whatever it is, right? But, reminding myself that this person, even though I'm frustrated, this person is not responsible for that. Certainly I'm responsible for my own frustration. We all have these things that trigger us or whatever. But in any case, there are times in life where, you have a right to be angry. And maybe it's something somebody did to you personally, right? Where they fucked you over and you get to just lay into them, tell them what a piece of shit they are, right? Where you feel it's okay. And everybody thinks it's okay to tell someone they suck shit on the internet. And I'm not talking about me making fun of, some people, some celebrities or whatever in videos that they don't have to watch, but you want the person to hear you telling them you're a piece of shit. And I don't do that. I don't leave hostile comments. I don't, as much as I can really tear into people, I don't do it, because, I don't know what kind of day that person's having. I don't know what's going on in their life. And I don't have a bunch of negative shit that I feel like I have to dump on other people. I have a cleaning process to deal with that shit, and a focus on being grateful and things I actually talk about. And so, it's just a wrong thing to do. But everyone thinks that they can say whatever they say to other people on the internet, it's okay. People have, I don't want to say cause, but, have encouraged people to commit suicide and things like that. And, that's somebody's ultimate decision, but, you could make it much more likely by being a complete prick and bullying people and other shit. And I don't tolerate that shit on my channel. And you should fucking understand that, right? Don't dump your shit on me because I'm not your fucking toilet. Get the fuck out of here. This is not for you to do. And you have no idea what it's like to be receiving so many of these negative comments, right? And they don't even affect me, and it affects me, right? I just, it's depressing knowing that people suck so bad. And so, the dumbass Trumpers and all this other stuff. And so, I feel like I'm sort of detached from it. I work on detachment. And I usually don't have an emotional reaction, but it just mentally, to see the state of humanity, and it just adds to the whole thing. And the way people treat each other on the internet. And, so just because you think it's okay and everybody else is doing it, it's not, right? And it defines you as a fucking person. What's wrong with you that you feel like you just need to lay into people and tell them what a piece of shit they are, right? And I can see why we're all frustrated with the people who control the system. But I always say, why do you expect more from them when they're below you, in terms of their spiritual evolution? These people are, stuck in a very hostile and abusive system, whether they're the abuser and the abused at the same time, and they're, unwilling to change and locked into this power dynamic, but they're the last people that are going to change and all the rest of it. All right, so I'll probably come back and read the comments. Maybe I'll end it here. I don't know. Let me go eat dinner and I'll figure that out. And just to add one last thing to this, if you're pretending to yourself that you're shitting on somebody else's for their benefit, like you're some godlike person, and if people would just listen to you, tell them how bad they are, they would change. It's the silliest thing ever. People do not change because you tell them they're an asshole, right? Some people beat the shit out of themselves, feel like shit, but they don't, get rid of the part that's fucked up because they just add another fucked up thing from your criticism. They're just damaged, right? Like if you think that you're going to do anything else but damage people by telling them that they suck, like it's you're venting. Like that's all this is. It's venting and whatever, dumping your bullshit on somebody else. When I criticize these people and celebrities, I hope they don't watch. I'm making fun of them, whatever it is for our benefit and pointing out behaviors. The second master of the system, Babaji, used to smoke a hookah, and he'd have people sitting around them, and he might see something in somebody that needed to be corrected. In a very subtle way, he'd look at somebody else, and he would say something about, people need to do this or need to do that, in a very subtle way, trying to explain what they should do and not what they shouldn't do. And it would take somebody really in tune with what Babaji was trying to say to realize he was talking about them. Because more often than not, they were conscious of their bullshit. But he didn't want to use force, and he wasn't going to say, hey, look, asshole, you got this, this, and this, and you better change this, this, and this, or you're not going to evolve spiritually. Because that's not going to work. Then they would get hurt and defensive. People don't want to hear it. Maybe they quit, whatever. So, that's just how it works. So don't pretend like you're doing a good thing by telling people they suck or arguing with them and telling them they're full of shit. You're doing it for yourself because you want to vent and you want drama, you want conflict, you want all this stuff. Like it's not, I would be shocked if anybody, I feel like I'm a pretty accurate reader of people. And, if people were, somebody wrote to me one time and said they would like me to critique them and tell them, everything that's wrong. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Like, that's not, but at least a person was saying they were willing. I don't know if I believe them or not because, why do you need someone else to tell you? Like, why can't you just read the situation that's happening to you time and time again, making the same mistakes? I was telling my wife about this. I had a roommate who was kind of an airhead. He helped start a basketball team with me. We were in a shared apartment. And he had his old roommate that he lived in a dorm with. We had one bedroom. I had another one. And he had the bedroom next to mine. And he had to wake up early and go to, go to work or class or whatever for like a whole semester. It must have been a good class. And what he would do is his alarm would go off. He'd hit the snooze bar. And then he would go take a shower. And his alarm snooze bar would go off while he was in the shower, and it would stay on until I went and I would go and rip the fucking thing out of the wall and tell him what a fucking piece of shit he was the next day. And he would come back to his room and go, oh, fuck. Like he forgot again, right? Which I understand, because I'm careless and I have these, dyslexic, whatever issues. But, there's things like that. And, the guy wanted to change and, we told him, stop fucking doing that, right? But, he did the same thing over and over. He couldn't fix his habits. Some part of him knew it was like, he was always say, oh, sorry, whatever. But, he wouldn't get it done. It was fucking, waking both of us up way earlier. We were partying or doing whatever college kids do. I might be sleeping for another couple hours or whatever. He had the motivation to change, but he just couldn't figure it out. I think maybe he did eventually. I don't even remember. But I'm just talking about how it's difficult for people to change. Their tendencies, their habits. And they're not, telling them that they suck almost never works. Only if they really are, open to it. And in that, they can figure out on their own. They don't need you to tell you. They're really open to changing. They'll figure things out. They get feedback from other people, right? This guy ended up carrying a list around. He had this list. It was just of tattered paper and, all the things he had to do because he's always forgetting appointments and fucking, his girlfriend was always chastising him for forgetting to come pick her up or some shit. Whatever it was, he just, he needed a list and he'd read the list constantly to remind himself because, at least he developed some sort of strategy. Because the world was telling him, hey, you fuckhead, you're irresponsible. You keep on, whatever. And so, people have the ability to change, but they don't want to. So you telling them, that they suck is just adding to their burden. And it's really says more about you than them, right? It's been a while. It's almost 10 o'clock here. We just did the 9 o'clock on Friday meditation for a half hour. I feel kind of good. Aside from the stupid comment and the stuff with the healthcare stuff that's going on, I had more thoughts about that, which I'll probably talk about in another. Well, I can just say briefly. My wife and I were talking about it, and I went into this the second version of this chiropractic practice. It helped me a lot after COVID, and it got me on the right track with meds. And I was having some issues, and my regular heartbeat had gotten worse, and I gained weight, and which I wasn't really kind of aware of, and it's maybe in a little bit of a rut, and things have happened to move me positively, but I've gotten in terms of the things I've figured out, in terms of the suggestions I've gotten from members of this, people in this channel, community, whatever you call it. I've gotten the Valsalva technique, and then somebody sent the thing about how to reduce cortisol, which is working. My wife found the, putting my legs up in the air, and I found a few different supplements, and we're taking, of all the things, 80% was done by everyone else, and 20% was done by the medical practice, right? And I had extensive testing and blood work and all these things, and but mostly what they recommended was a few supplements, and then this whole thing where the guy made a mistake, and for them to say, well, this is our standard practice, and we'll have to contact the fucking manufacturers to see. I'm like, you've been doing it wrong. You're lucky you hadn't fucking killed somebody. To wait a week. Oh, it's been like 2 weeks. I didn't go in this week. I think I went in Monday of the previous week. So it's been, coming up on this next Monday will be 2 weeks since, whatever, it might even be longer. And, I could be going through real health shit, and they're like, fucking around and meeting and talking and, not strategizing in an effective way. And they tell me that, well, that's just standard practice for us. Well, if I contact the manufacturers because no one read the fucking instruction manual, it just gives me no faith in they've had a lack of communication, and there's some good people there, but they're just, there's turnover, and there's, and they're overcharging and, all that shit. So, there's more to say about it, but let's move on to the other thing. So, to do with this person's comment, and, what people don't understand is words don't mean anything. They don't really have an effect unless somebody is really seeking change, right? You get, to parts of your life where, you get a wake-up call, or you feel restless and unsettled, and you're just not happy about your life, or, you need something to change. You can't stand, you're in a rut, something's going on where you just need to move forward, something people have this kind of condition. And, when you start do the meditation I do, you get that kind of regularly, in your meditations and things where, there needs to be a change, a more subtle change. And it comes from an internal process that really doesn't involve words and books as much as it involves, something that's abstract and, beyond communication, right? Like this person who wrote the comment, his basic issue was that he really wants to be able to tell people they suck, or, give his opinion on his terms, right? And, even though it violates the rules, and he gets upset when he can't do that. And I'm like, nobody's listening to you anyway. It's like when somebody, you want to tell somebody something, and you want to have some kind of, let's have a conversation where I'm going to complain about you or bitch about you or whatever. And, maybe you're justified in doing it, right? And, maybe you're not, depending on the circumstance. I mean, if you're a parent, you have to do this all the time. And the person says to you, I don't really want to hear it, right? And as a parent, you kind of got to say it. You can find better ways of doing it. But you have to tell your kids something because it's like, there's a problem and you have to address it, right? But in terms of people on the internet, it's like, you said something and that gave me a reaction, and I really need you to fucking hear my reaction. And I see this over and over again. people get really upset that I'm not willing to listen to their reaction. Like I have no interest in it. Like they need to tell me something from their end, right? I talked about like how there was some guy who was really butthurt, and he said he was in the UFC, and he wanted to fight me, right? And I'm like, no, I don't. Just because you're upset doesn't mean I have to wrestle you in my fucking underwear. I can wrestle, we can wrestle each other in our underwear, because that doesn't appeal to me, Plus, I'm like fucking 60, I'm like in my 50s. It's probably 5 some years ago. It was a while back, but like, yeah, just because you're mad doesn't mean, if somebody wants to fight you or physically hit you, that doesn't mean you have to participate in that. Right? The guy said something like, yeah, I don't remember the gist of the comment, but I remember like deleting it and then going, oh, I really wish I had said something. It's kind of, there's a lot of, I was in one of those moods where I just, didn't feel like shitting on somebody in the comment section. Some days or I didn't have enough time to do it or whatever. And I just delete a comment or I ban somebody before I take a picture of the comment. I'm like, oh, wow, that would have been a great one to use. But the guy said something like, you're a pussy if you don't, or a coward, I don't know what word he used, if you don't agree to wrestle me in my underwear. And I was like, why do you get to decide? Just because you're upset, you want something. So if you want to say something to somebody and the person says, no, I don't want to hear it. And I say that to everybody. If you got a complaint, you can either fuck off or eat your complaint and sit there and listen. But that's your choice. You don't have to listen to my videos. I'm not begging you or demanding you do that. It's 100% your choice. If I say things that upset you or bother you and make you feel bad, then you should probably not listen to them. It's just, that's for you to decide. But like, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to hear about your negative reaction to what I'm saying or who I am as a person or whether you like me or dislike me or whatever it is. Like, if you like me, certainly, that says, well, there is, especially when people say that I'm making their lives better. It's, some of the things I'm saying is helping them. That's motivation to keep on going. But not, it doesn't build my confidence or ego or, I don't need validation in that way, but it's good for me to know that like what I'm doing is worthwhile to people. I'm not just talking to myself, Of course, people could lie. People can lie about anything or just, their comment doesn't have to be honest. But either way, if you're chasing someone around and you're trying to force your opinion on them, and other than when you're in a parental role, you're somebody's boss or your authority figure. And again, if you're not like just shitting on people because you have authority, but if you're actually, somebody needs correction, you have some interventions for people. But for the most part, if people don't want to hear what you have to say or they don't want to do or act and change because of what you say, then really, your words are more often than not, I would say like 90% of words, things that people say is just worthless. Like it has no value. Like there's just too much talking, right? People often misconstrue what you're saying, misconstrue what you're saying. And, or don't understand it. I guess that's two different things. And, or, don't listen to you. But there's just too many things said that don't result in communication, right? Like I was saying about this healthcare practice that, my wife had something that they diagnosed her with, like some, thing or whatever, not a big deal. And she had another issue. And she came in and said, I want these issues addressed. And months went by and they were reacting to tests she took. And, they do a hair analysis and they do blood tests. And they do all these other, some kind of magnetic stuff that, they do some readings of your various things. I don't know how many of these things are accurate or not, but they're going on that and not listening to their patient. And then, there was stuff to do with me that they weren't addressing. And, I was already going there a month or so and I was already having issues and they already fucked up my heart more with the stupid machine. And all that stuff should have been communicated. Like they should have sat down. Everybody should have been on the same page for what they're charging people there. And they have, you're going to these different people and, there should be some kind of communication. They had like someone like supposed to be your caseworker, but, we had to go see her and we said, things aren't getting done that we're supposed to be being addressed. And, not until months went by, my wife, who was having an issue, some, not big issue. And then the thing that they diagnosed her with still hasn't gotten addressed. The woman said that I had some kidney issues and she wanted to give me supplements for me. And then she quit. And I revisited with the other person that was reassigned to me. And she couldn't find the notes and shit. And I'm like, communication in this thing is fucking key, right? Especially when, you could be giving people some kind of medication they don't need, or, they could be sensitive to electromagnetic stuff like I am. Like they have a machine that uses ultrasound, or I want to say maybe possibly microwaves. It's one or the other. I mean, the machine uses, both things. They have machines that use one, or machine use another. But I started Googling these machines because I didn't want any of the fucking, like you're using energy, and red light therapy I know about and it works well. These heat lamps, and people do those kind of things, these red light saunas, and I've used the red light before, and I felt it was good, it worked. And there's things out there that, energetic things that I would be okay with, but I know in the Sajmark system, like certain things, like you weren't supposed to do Reiki because it interferes with the Sajmark transmission. Reiki is some sort of healing energy type thing. And Sajmark meditation is something more subtle. And so, like you're supposed to stay away from things like that. But people just go in and, they sit there and they get radiated. I mean, they're getting dosed with ultrasound and it's supposed to be healing them, but what if it's not, right? It's just, or what if the person's sensitive to it, like the thing that happened to me. And so, like, people, for all the words that are said, people don't listen or retain most of the things you say to them. And, you have to say things over and over again, and you have to fight to get your needs met or whatever it might be. But there's a better way for change with beyond communication, which is what happens in the Sajmark system through transmission and cleaning, and things just disappear. Like I used to be a lot more angry than I am now. And some of that's age, but a lot of it has to do with cleaning. I had a bitterness that was cleaned, and that, my life changed significantly. I went through this very tough, emotional, difficult time. I was going through a divorce, and the beginning part of it, my family and I were trapped in India, a very stressful time. And I got all these sittings, and then this anger, this bitterness towards God, which I felt very acutely, came out, and it just changed me as a person. My life got so much better, and it wasn't something I was aware of, until it was, I knew something like just heavy was being cleaned from my spiritual system, what you call some scars. And so, nonverbal work is always more subtle. The more subtle the work, more effective it is. And you can talk to you're blue in the face, but people just don't want to hear or can't hear. Or if they could change, they'd probably be working on changing already. But people who aren't actively engaged in changing, right? One of the practitioners of the system was some sort of counselor, like a woman counselor or something. And she said, if a man tells you, like she's talking to other women, if a man tells you he can't change, he won't, he can't, right? Like don't fucking think he's, I'm going to change him. These women who no, he says he doesn't want to change, but I'm going to change him. Like, what? Like, what the fuck are you talking about? So, people think their words are so important and their opinions are so important. They're not. And I have my opinions and my beliefs and all these things listened to on a daily basis. And there are people that say it's affected them positively. I can't speak to that. But for the most part, I don't feel like I have much of effect on people, even with the energy they feel and things like that. On a more subtle level, maybe, but consciously, in terms of, how many people end up doing the meditation that I believe in 100%. I believe it more than anything else, and I believe it's, the solution to the problem of human life. And, people can try it for free, and almost nobody does. So, I just, I don't care. And if somebody doesn't want to hear my opinions, I don't want to give them. If there was some kind of, in real life type situation, I don't have to talk. I get paid to talk. I talk here, and it's a job, right? For people who want to listen, and the people that don't can leave. It's not, you're not going to hurt my feelings. The majority of people don't want to listen to me. The majority of people come, they listen to me for a bit, and they leave. Some of them, regret it and want to come back, and or they just sort of disappear. They're not leaving because they don't like what I have to say, but the majority of people just don't like what I have to say or don't like me or whatever. I've had millions upon millions of viewers, And I got, of all those viewers, I've retained an audience of about 5,000 people. The majority of people just don't like, And the more I talk about the spiritual stuff, the less they want to hear about. That's fine. And so, I'm not I'm not upset by it. I don't like listening to myself. Like I say, I'm not a fan of the show. So, and I don't believe talking really has the effect that people think it does. In terms of, it's a very bad way of communication. Telepathy is going to be available at some point, and then people won't be able to lie and bullshit. And you're going to have to be a much different type of person in terms of your personality configuration. You won't be able to be manipulative or be, like I said, deceptive and all these things, because you won't be able to lie when people can communicate through, some sort of psychic telepathy and things, which is available to human beings. And it's much more effective than words. Talking will still be something, but the majority of communication will take place on a deeper level. Anyways, let me just look at the comments real quick here. Okay, so this guy, someone just wrote this. I don't know if you put much stock in this psychiatric condition, borderline personality disorder, but your ex reminds me of my last marriage and the last long-term girlfriend. And my last long-term girlfriend. I jumped from the frying pan to the fire with those two. It wasn't until I sobered up that I could learn to avoid those types. Well, my ex, I'm pretty sure she had borderline personality. So, what happens was her mom got diagnosed with it, or her brother diagnosed, was doing research because their parents were so fucked up. Her brother said she has borderline. And her ex-husband, who they were splitting up when I came into the picture, and her ex-husband got this horrific diagnosis, which included narcissistic and borderline personality disorder and all the other things. And he got the worst kind of, the write-up of what kind of person he was. It was brutal. And it was like a foreign woman. And so, so we were dealing with that, and I was going to, college to be I had a master's, getting my master's in counseling. And we were talking about borderline personality disorders quite a bit, personality disorders in general. And there was a woman who came in, and she did a type of therapy called solution-focused therapy, where the person doesn't come in and whine about their problems, but they work on solutions, like to the person's problem. Like they diagnose the problem, and then everything's on the positive instead of whining or complaining or feeling helpless. It's about, all right, how do we solve this problem? And, I read a book about it, and I really liked it. It's very similar to the Sajmark philosophy, where you focus on the solution and not the problem, which goes against therapy in general. And somebody asked her, and she gave this great answer, how do you deal with the personality disorder people, which everybody complains about? Borderline personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, a few other ones that are less, and then the antisocial personality disorder, which is the old sociopath. And she said, I can hear them on my voicemail. I can smell them coming. And I only take one or two on as clients, and I'm going to inevitably charge them for every second of my time they are inevitably going to waste. I wrecked the inevitably. I'm going to charge them for every second of time that they're inevitably going to waste. I remember the quote verbatim because it summed up those type of personality disorders. And so at some point, we're probably just divorced. I had come back from America. My ex had, she had multiple personalities, and she was sexually and physically abused by her dad, according to her, and really emotionally and physically abused by her mom. Her mom had punched her one time, and she went blind, and it's called, hysterical blindness. And she told her therapist, like when she was in college, about that, and he got all excited. A true hysteric, I've never met one. These people who go blind or they have these reactions. She couldn't see for like a day because she had this hysterical reaction. And so, she was just fucked up, right? So, but I saw something, and it's like, how do you know you're dating a borderline person? And it was like 15 things, and every one of them, except for like two, applied to my ex. And I was like, oh my God, she had it the whole time. her mom had it, her ex had it, and she had it. And I just didn't notice because she had all this other stuff. She had these psychotic breakdowns. But I started to talk about it, and some, I don't know, like a woman reached out to me years ago when I used to talk to people. Like I used to have conversations with people. This is when I was coming back from India. I had about 30,000 subscribers. And this person reached out when I was talking about my ex, and she said, yeah, her mom had borderline personality disorder and sounded just like my ex. So, people who've interacted with that kind of personality disorder, they know what I'm talking about because it fucking blows. It's probably the worst one. Like the borderline, it's just, narcissistic personality disorder is pretty sucky, and they're very similar. Somebody just donated $100. I'm scrolling through the comments here. Some people donate $100. Other people write me a 4-page letter about how bad it sucks for them not to be able to shit on me in the comment section. Somebody wrote, Jesus is a Jew. I'm not sure what the purpose of that comment was. And, it's a 2-hour video. I have no idea if he's responding to something I said or somebody, whatever. Somebody wrote, doctors cause the problems, which is, I think partially true. And then somebody wrote, oh my God, that Marfam diagnoser is stalking you, hiding out in the bushes, watching you with binoculars. Well, let's hope not. Let's hope not. I'm not sure that would be something that anybody would really, I have a pretty boring existence. Paul, I've learned so much from you. Thank you. I've learned about reincarnation, about the soul so much from you. I'm better to know all you have taught me. I'm a bit less dumb because of you, LOL. Just thought I'd leave a comment because I appreciate your wisdom and have a great chuckle. Sorry for the spelling mistakes. It's really it's like a dyslexic comment, but it's, I was able to read through it. So there's all that. I don't know what to say about it. Another person donated $20, which is good, I guess, to that one video. A joint venture is when you smoke a joint and go on a venture. He probably wasted after smoking some Afghanistan ganja. I'm not sure what that's reference to. Just going through these things. People die. Babaji died in the early 80s since many travelers ran into him in China near Tibet in the 90s. I wonder if we're talking about the 300-year-old guy in leopard skins. No, there's multiple guys named Babaji. There's the Babaji is Babuji is my guy, which is, I didn't know him, but he was the second master of Sajmark's system. And Bob Iji is somebody who's a little bit more famous. And, I think he's probably pretty fake. A couple of people wrote about having YouTube Premium. And then someone wrote, I highly recommend YouTube Premium. The price is well worth it. No commercials. The videos will play on your phone when you navigate away to another page. You can download videos. I was wondering if YouTube channels made money through being subscribed to YouTube Premium, which I said they do. I'm not sure how it works. Thank you, Paul, for answering my question. YouTube is also my favorite subscription. I watch it the most. I love the variety of videos. No other video platform has a variety of contexts. The format is the most user-friendly, and the algorithm has excellent for me a while now. It's recommended to me many excellent videos, and it seems what you like and suggests more of those types of videos. Yeah, it doesn't do that. It sucks at that. That's almost like a bot comment because, some of those things are true, but it's the worst at doing that. For YouTube, like I said, I met my wife through YouTube, and, that's been a great thing. And when my family and I were moving from India, my YouTube channel was doing much better economically and all that shit. And it kept me afloat. Like, I was able to make the transition from India at home. And there's a variety of things that YouTube has gotten me through. And there's all the great YouTube videos I've watched. Now, the evil part of YouTube sucks, just like any corporation, these things. So you have to deal with whatever. But I choose to focus on the positive because you can't change the negative. There's always going to be evil corporate shit. That's all the comments. I just went through them all. I mean, it's like people really hate YouTube because of the censorship and how they structured against the truth community. But without the YouTube, there'd be no truth community. I mean, YouTube started the whole truth community. They were the first one. I mean, I don't know if the first one was a place where you could actually make a living through monetization. And, there's things that YouTube did to, I mean, YouTube's a lot better than Facebook or Instagram, TikTok. I mean, just, I can't really I don't use TikTok. But those other apps, I mean, Facebook's like a ghost town, and they, whatever that was is done. And then there's platforms these younger people use, and I'm not sure about them and whatever, but, YouTube for the body of work and the amount of people that have benefited from. I mean, there's all kinds of helpful videos. There's so many things I've learned from other people that, posted videos, but whether it be something I do in Photoshop or something to do with the homestead or health stuff. And so, I like having my subscription to YouTube, even though they've been a shitty partner to me. I mean, they couldn't be, much of a worse partner. Like in just every, like I got multiple issues that I could dwell on, but I don't dwell on them because, I've gained so much out of it, and everything that has people in it is going to suck. All right, so let me wrap this one up here. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paramano, definitely pouring from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.